with whatever, because we don't.
Okay, welcome back to Calder Park. We're already underway with the endurance. We're seeing the electric cars out there. We'll be getting the times up. But the best news is we've got somebody else here presenting. My voice was starting to go last night, and not quite as funny as Isaac here, who's the head of Auckland, isn't it? Yeah. Head of Auckland. He wishes he was probably the head of Canterbury, I think.
Nope. We're going to beat them today. No worry about that.
So is everything going still to plan for your second place finish?
It's going to be a first place finish, Kevin. I think you're going to end up second, maybe third. Canterbury might beat you.
Yeah, I thought Canterbury looking incredibly strong. What did you think of what we saw yesterday with Wollongong and Melbourne pulling out those really quick lap times in autocross?
They were staggeringly quick. I wouldn't describe them quite as a dark horse, but it did come a bit out of nowhere for us. We're hoping we'll be able to pip them today with the efficiency and the endurance, but we're going to have to wait and see.
So I hear a rumour that the Auckland guys, they're probably going to be running on about 100 mil of fuel. Is that about right?
100 mil total? It's probably going to be 100 mil less than last year.
That'd put you at about 0 mils.
Maybe. I mean, I've seen some of the other teams' fuel tanks, and ours is about the size of a milk bottle. There's the size of a milk crate, so we'll see.
Yeah, well, I think both University of Queensland and Edith, Cowan University both ran out of fuel in the autocross. So they've got about enough in their tank for one lap, so better be a quick one.
They had the balls to change their cover picture to them in the grass, though. Didn't see you guys do anything.
No, we keep everything very secret.
That's not very much in the spirit of the competition, but we'll just have to wait and see. So I hear that the run plan for the day is one endurance in the morning, one endurance in the afternoon, and running the EVs first in the morning endurance.
Yeah, it's. I think what they're doing with the EVs out early is making sure they've got enough time to charge their cars. Of course, these cars are coal-powered, so they need a bit of time to charge up before the second endurance run.
Right now, it would seem we've only got one electric car on track, and looking at the schedule, there should be a total of 5 before the end of it. So hopefully we'll see the rest of them lining up soon.
Well, this RMIT car that's out there at the moment, it ended up with a top 10 autocross finish yesterday, up against some of the really quick petrol cars. So we might be able to see some good lap times with this one.
Yeah, I walked on over at the end of the autocross session, and I heard they ran a 1:41.1 by the sounds of it, which is actually pipped Auckland.
I don't think they got quite that far, but it was definitely up in the top 10. He was driving it pretty hard.
We'll have to wait and see when the results come out.
Of course, most of my information is very flawed. So if any of the RMIT guys are upset that I've added a few seconds to their autocross lap on the mic, you could take it out on Isaac. So what are your predictions for today? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, I think obviously there's a lot of concern about Monash just going out there and taking it. But if we look at the autocross times yesterday, there was quite a close spread across the top 7 or 8 teams.
Yeah, it looks like we've gone over the points, and it looks like at this stage, going into the day, that Edith, Cowan University and Monash are right at the top. I think Edith Cowan was ahead, probably ahead by about a point or so. Of course, Monash are probably going to use a lot less fuel and were much faster in autocross. So they're clear favourites if they manage to finish endurance. But behind that, there was a lot of close teams. So UQ, I think, was sitting in 3rd place, and then a logjam of a bunch of teams that are very close. So it looks like we won't really know where people are going to stand until the fuel results come out.
Yeah, efficiency is probably going to be where it's made today. The singles will be using a lot less. Some of the 4-cylinder teams are claiming they're not going to use much. We'll see. I've seen some 8-litre fuel tanks, and even they're worried about running out.
So when you say your fuel tank's about the size of a milk glass, how many litres do you run in one of the fuel tanks?
I think I said a milk bottle. Milk glass would have been impressive. I'm not quite sure. I think our tank's 3 and a bit litres. I'm not going to reveal any magic numbers just yet, but we'll use less than that.
Yeah, well, I think the ECU tank's probably about, I think it was started at about 4.5 litres and had a bit added before the car shipped over to comp. So it probably sits around 5 litres.
And you still ran out of fuel yesterday?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of yellow laps on that autocross, and this track is very long. I think they're only doing 7 laps per driver. They're right, 7 or 8 laps per driver for the endurance.
To save people math, that's a lap of about 1.5 kilometres, which is quite long.
Yeah, being a now out of engineering course, I no longer use any maths as a faculty advisor. I really just get other people to do my math for me.
Even as a student, I use a calculator, and I just send emails all day. So
emails, it's the hallmark of a project manager. So this RMIT car, this is lapping. That last lap was a 1:49.6, and that was the fastest lap they've done so far. So that's quite a competitive lap time already.
Coming up on about halfway through their 5th lap, meaning 2 or 3 left until the driver swap.
I'm quite impressed here. You've got yourself a computer and some sort of advanced program running. I've just got a mobile phone with occasional times popping up. It looks like those Auckland guys really have their gear together.
I came prepared. You gave me about a 5-minute warning.
5 minutes and you've already got this whole desk full of computers. I'm impressed.
All we need now is a sector split time. Let's include that for next year.
You've probably got it somewhere there on that computer. So actually, while you've got the computer there for Auckland were running pretty quick yesterday. Do you mind sharing all the details of your data and designs there? You can just pull it open, and it is an education event.
Well, I've got the master assembly CAD file open here. Come take a look if you want. It's really revealing.
It was one of the things I really like this year is some of the sharing from teams on their social media sites, and especially teams like yourself and Queensland. It's exciting throughout the year to have an update to where people are. You can get stuck in your workshop and caught up with what you're doing, and it's handy to know that other people are suffering the same, and you get to see a bit of what's going to happen before you come to comp.
It is always nice to turn up to competition, talk to other teams, and discover that your problems aren't unique and everyone's having the same kind of troubles. I mean, just last week, we learnt that we were grooving our tyres wrong.
Okay, there's 3 cones hit there by RMIT Electric, and that was a 151 flat. So grooving your tyres incorrectly, what's the story behind that?
UQ posted a picture online. Apparently you're meant to use a meat cleaver and a heat gun. I hear they're being made for you, so we'll see.
Yeah, those Queensland guys really helped us out. One of the Hoosier dealers in Queensland grooved tyres, and they thought it was very funny, and we were very worried about what sort of tyre we were going to get when we got here.
Have you had the chance to run them yet?
Well, I don't think there's going to be any rain around, and in Western Australia, I think over the time of the existence of the team, we've been around since 2008. think we've bought about 4 sets of wet tyres, and I think we've run wet tyres once for one test session, for about half a test session, I think.
Sounds similar to my experience on the Auckland team. Been around for testing probably 3 years now, and I can think of a handful of times we've been out in the wet. You get the half-wet stage where it's still safe to run slicks, and we just tend to do that.
Well, over the west it's so dry that when it starts to rain, usually people are just staring up, wondering what it is.
So we're under instructions to tell people as well that the live stream is ready to go. The button to start it may have been pressed, so if you're watching online, good morning. Should be running the whole day, split into 2 sessions for the first endurance and the second endurance.
Now, one of the odd things watching these electric cars go around is a 151. That was around about what we saw from, maybe some of the mid to back runners yesterday in autocross, and they're going around, engines screaming, and you could really hear the difference, this acceleration. So this car is very quiet, but these sort of lap times would have quite a lot of noise from the petrol teams. So that's RMIT Electric in for their driver change. It's a 153.4, and I guess one of the advantages they have here is for all their petrol teams, this driver changeover. Some of our team members have annoying noises, that's for sure.
A lot of people would describe me as having an annoying noise too.
Yeah, it was really odd when we asked you to come up to the commentary. I think your team was pretty happy you weren't going to be around. It's a bit odd.
Well, I'm on pretty strict instructions not to seem stupid. I will. I'm sorry, Auckland.
Well, you've got big shoes to fill, literally big shoes. The previous partner in commentary was Jeff Pearson, unable to be with us for medical reasons, and he's been a mainstay of this Formula SAE competition, so big shoes to fill. But I think most of the time we just sit here saying an inane comment. So.
There's currently one car on track, so not much really to say. They're not even out right now.
Usually the answer with Jeff would just talk about Tokyo Denki for a while. So any lulls, it's amazing, that Tokyo Denki car. It's very small, compact. I really love that they come along.
I heard they set a pretty good record for the driver egress during Scroot. One of their drivers set a 1.8 second egress time.
Oh, that's impressive.
Keep in mind, you have to start with your hands on the steering wheel and end with both feet on the ground out of the car. 1.8 seconds.
I don't know about it amongst your team, but it's always been a bit of a competition between drivers, the driver egress. Usually the drivers in this competition are the competitive bunch. And one of our drivers who won it last year was accused of cheating by the other drivers. And I think in the scrutineering, we'd gone through scrutineering and passed. And some of the drivers wanted it to be retested because they thought he cheated and got too low a time.
And Rimmet Electric are back out on track.
I'm really impressed with this. I think this is the first time we've seen an electric car run at this sort of competitive pace. It's sort of running the pace that I guess you'd be happy with if you were sort of a mid-running petrol team.
Obviously, the track's backwards today. It's being run clockwise when autocross was run anti-clockwise. So we'll have to see when the other teams come out, but it is looking like a very competitive time right now. So from this, we can confirm each half of the endurance appears to be 8 laps. I'm prepared to be shouted at if I'm wrong.
Oh no, I think what happened is they come in on the 7th and they get that 8 lap as they pass the start finish on their exit. So going into the driver change will count as 1 lap, and that lap will be deducted from their time.
There we are. I said something stupid.
No, just ill-informed, Isaac. So have Auckland ever looked into looking into electric cars?
Oh, we dabble with the idea every year. I mean, it's always there in the long run. They've got, on average, a higher power output than a lot of the petrol cars. I guess the big problem is the weight and the cost.
Oh, the cost is a big one. I think ECU's in the same boat. We had a look at whether it was feasible and had a good talk to some of the teams in the UK and Europe that had been running it. And the cost of the battery packs of the top running teams is very expensive.
Not only the literal cost, but for the cost event. I think we had a team member cost it out, and it's not good.
Yeah, if we run the points on the cost event, and it looks like we figure it's about every $1,000 you save on the car is about 7 points in the competition. We figure it's actually one of the easiest ways to save points. As a simple car will actually come out a lot cheaper.
And that's RMIT Electric around again, with their last lap being a 1:52.7. A good effort for the driver's first lap.
Oh, absolutely. You normally see when these drivers come out that their first lap tends to be about 3, maybe 4 seconds slower than what they'll ultimately get down to.
If that's true, we could be looking at a low 1:49 for their best lap, which would be very competitive.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that the times we'll be calling out will be sort of fastest lap times, and every driver out there wants to be the quickest person, but overall it's the team that gets the lowest overall time between their laps, and most of the competitive teams know that those first 1 or 2 laps out there are critical. That's where you can win or lose an endurance event. If you go out too easy or you drop 5 seconds on your competitors, you can't really get that back by being 1 or 2 tenths a lap faster later on.
No, 5 seconds out on that first lap is like losing 4 or 5 tenths across every other lap.
So I guess one of the things you'd probably do the same is in your driver training program, you focus on your endurance drivers being able to get out and get on it very quickly, and make sure you capitalise on those first 1 or 2 laps.
Yeah, that's definitely true. If we look at our endurance drivers lined up for today, they should be reasonably consistent from the get-go.
And I guess one of the things with your car in particular, it's one of the smallest cars in terms of track and wheelbase that we see here. It's got a much tighter path that it can take through the track, which really allows the drivers to be consistent from the very beginning.
Yeah, without the front wing at the front, we don't hit too many cones or tyres.
And that was a 1:55.8, so quite a bit slower on that second lap.
We know the pace is in the car, so there must have just been a small mistake somewhere.
And you never know with these whether they're having to conserve their energy a little bit. Getting through that first endurance and just banking that time, it leaves you with a really good feeling to go hard later in the second endurance.
I think we can expect from a lot of teams this morning to put out a banker endurance and just get one in the bag and then go really hard in the afternoon and try and set the quick times.
Well, looking at the temperatures we've got here, after a few cars have cleaned up this track, I don't know that you're going to see the track get too much faster in the afternoon. I think we could see some pretty good times in the morning. Obviously, for the first couple of cars coming out, which will be Monash and Wollongong, they will have a bit of a dirty track. The electric cars will have cleaned up some of it because there is quite a lot of dust that accumulates on a track. Even overnight, you can change a track. They will have probably the worst lot of the grip. But that'll be gone in the second run, so they'll almost certainly be running their slower pair in the beginning. But some of the other teams might be able to go out. It'll be reasonably quick. It's pretty hot now.
Commentary was built for small talk, so if we look at the weather, it's been all over the place for the last couple of days, and I hear you have a similar saying in Melbourne as we do in Auckland, 4 seasons in one day. But from the top of the hill, I can see pretty far, and it's looking nice and clear.
Wasn't there a famous New Zealand band with 4 seasons in one day in this song?
Yes, there was.
I'm sure everyone knows of only one famous New Zealand band. Bustling music scene, I'm sure.
Riveting. And Remit comes through to complete another lap. It's just going to come up. And it looks like they run a 1:56.1.
Yeah, so that's definitely looks like it's slow. That's 2 laps now in a row slower than that initial run from this driver. So I'd be taking a guess that they're conserving batteries there. That's almost unheard of to go slower in your 3rd lap in, unless you are trying to conserve the car.
Whereas the petrol cars are judged on efficiency by the volume of fuel they use, or rather the weight, the electric cars are calculated on the kilowatt-hour capacity of their battery pack, which isn't something that you can change endurance. We tried to make it as small as possible to complete an endurance, which does perhaps mean nursing it around a couple of laps to make sure they finish.
Well, I'm sure there's at least one fella here who's a bit grumpy on the forums that would probably take issue to the use of units of kilowatt hours. As engineers, we tend to measure things in joules, but kilowatt hours, for whatever reason, has become the standard to look at electric power with. Doesn't sound quite as cool as megajoules, though.
No, it does not. I've talked to a lot of teams about the electric stuff, and I'm a mechanical student, so I know nothing. But they all seem to be given their battery pack size in amp hours, and considering you can run different voltages here, I think, it's a bit tricky to figure out just how big it is for efficiency calculations.
Yeah, I don't understand electrics as well. I think I'm allergic to electrons, so the petrol cars suit me fine.
We got pipped by an electric car in efficiency last year, which seemed a bit silly, but we'll see what happens this year.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what they're doing with the efficiency calculations, whether the electrics will be included. It does have quite a big points upset to the petrol comp. It really does change the results there. And our RMIT crossing there with a 154.7, so a little bit faster than the last couple of laps.
Picking up the pace, 1.5 seconds quicker than the previous lap. In my understanding with the efficiency calculations for electric is they're costed on a CO2 emissions per kilowatt hour of the battery pack. So it's kind of meant to be based on the battery manufacturer.
Yeah, I think they were trialling the first run of e-meters. So I think it's the first time that we've had some sort of measurement of how much electric energy is going to be used by these. But I'm not sure whether the results are going to be used or whether that's a trial this weekend.
Well, I've had a little birdie come up and tell me they are using the e-meters for the efficiency calculations this weekend and that they will be directly compared with the petrol cars.
The unfortunate thing, I think they're also counting the fuel that went in the diesel generator to produce the electrons in the first place. So that's really going to hurt the electric cars.
Can probably expect them to be at the bottom.
No, of course, that's not true. But
We'll
I wish
see.
it was.
We'll see.
No, it is good to see this car has completed 11 laps so far. We'll only need to complete another 3 to finish the endurance. And this is no small feat. We think of an endurance, and I've been involved with a little bit of endurance racing, and a 24-hour race is incredibly draining on you in a race team. And you'd look at something that's 22 Ks and you think there's no chance that's an endurance race. But it really is a test for endurance for these cars. They're not very easy to drive. There's a lot of direction changes. The drivers are working very hard. 10, 15 minutes in one of these cars can be incredibly tiring. And on top of that, a lot of these cars are only finished nights before or even during the competition. So it is a test of man and machine. And that was a 156.0.
I know a big design thing for Auckland for the last couple of years has been reducing driver fatigue, particularly with the steering effort. Our 2013 car was famous for being very tiring to drive. We seem to have gone a little better. We'll just have to wait and see.
Well, it's a really tough balance there. I think ECU's actually gone the other way this year, has increased the steering effort, because you've got to trade off that responsiveness of the car, so your reaction rate, and as well as how hard it is to steer. So there's driver fatigue, but there's also vehicle response, and I guess all teams find somewhere that they're happy with. And a lot of the times when you're designing these cars, you're working with your previous car as your benchmark, rather than other teams. So we might be saying, well, our steering effort is very hard this year, whereas another team, that might be an easy steering effort.
That's where the informal driver swap after competition comes in handy. You get feedback from your drivers as to just how difficult the steering effort is compared to other people.
So this RMIT electric car, it's only got a couple of laps to complete before finishing the endurance, and we can hear the petrol car starting to warm up now. the engines often don't run very well cold. And you do have to decide how much you're going to warm up your cars, because you don't get to warm up without using fuel. And that does come away from your efficiency calculations. So usually you'll make the trade-off and warm it up a little bit, just as long as you feel that all the oil is warm and everything's running nice.
So to fill those of you in at home that are watching on the live stream, the efficiency calculation is based on the weight of fuel you use in the endurance. So just before the endurance, they fill you to the brim with fuel. And then you go out, you do your endurance, and you park in Parc Fermé in the pit lane for half an hour.
Well, that was a 1:52.03, and by my calculations, this will be the last lap that they complete. So when they get around to the finish line, just make sure you give them a big cheer. This car is looking very solid, a great presented car from RMIT. This is the future. No matter how long it's going to take, at some point we won't be in petrol-powered cars. There will be electric cars, and this is a very early days. You know, it's not something that's going to happen tomorrow. But what you're watching going around here is the future of automotive engineering.
It really is. We're seeing the move already from petrol to hybrid, and then there'll be the inevitable hybrid to electric. I'm sure a lot of you have seen the Tesla that's been parked in the car park for the last couple of days.
Well, that Tesla's an impressive machine. It accelerates like a Ferrari. It's got 5 seats in it. When you've got those sort of specs and the car is legitimately better, it's a great thing. Okay, Monash are lining up here. This will be the first petrol car. Monash won acceleration yesterday, or the fastest time for acceleration. There's a lot of people, a lot of Monash people up on the hill. There's also a lot of Monash people in the hot zone. There's a lot of Monash people in the pits, and there's a lot of Monash people in Melbourne in general. So we should hear a few cheers coming from up here. It's sort of like a, what would you call what's the collective name for a group of Monash people? A swarm?
I don't think I can say it on radio, Kevin.
Oh, okay.
No, I kid. We really like Monash. Every year for the last couple of years, they've hosted Auckland in their corridor.
Oh, I really like Monash as well. It'd be nice if they didn't win now and then, but they are nice people. They work very hard for their win, and it really shows. Oh, there. So RMIT Electric finishing with a 150.5. Well done there, RMIT.
And straight away, Monash is out on track.
Now, this car did have big issues yesterday. Only got out onto the autocross track right at the very end. They've taken the car away last night to work on it. I'm assured by their faculty advisor, Scott Wordley, that everything was done, that it's ready to run, but they can be a bit cagey, these Monash guys, so I guess they're hoping that there's no problems like yesterday today.
Only a quarter of the lap down, and they are looking very quick already.
They also had issues passing noise, so it wasn't a day that went to plan, but in the end the results were there for them. I think the only thing that they missed out on was it looks like they just got pit by Canterbury on the skid pad, and I think they didn't quite go as fast as they would have liked to on acceleration, but everything else, time-wise, points-wise, would have gone exactly to plan.
There's definitely time in the car as well compared to their autocross lap. I mean, the driver went out and did 1, and it was a competitive time, and he did 2, and it was quicker than everyone.
Well, there's even more Monash people coming up, but we're seeing Melbourne come up, and how awesome was that Melbourne car going around? I reckon that was beautifully set up for the autocross track.
Staggeringly quick. Watching the driver just throw it into corners.
And you really see that you can pick the Victorian teams because they're just the number of people that they can field at this competition. It's almost as if the whole university's turning up.
You say that, but Auckland's managed to bring 28 people to the competition this year. I think we could probably rival Melbourne.
I didn't even know there were 28 people in New Zealand.
I hear ECU has one very good driver from Taupo, New Zealand.
Yeah, we were told that that particular town's not very good. This Monash car is not looking very fast. There was a 150.28, and it's not running well at all. We would have expected first lap there to be in the 140s, and this could be a bit of an upset going on right now.
I think you might be speaking too soon, Kevin. That was their first lap.
Well, a 150, I think the RMIT electric car was going close to 150, but I think we're going to find out right now because Wollongong, who were at one stage leading autocross, have come out, and I tell you what, these Wollongong guys, they have some amazing drivers.
Looks like they've already got a third car lined up to come out as well. We should be seeing 3 or 4 cars on track at a time for the petrol endurance.
So we are running fastest to slowest. Last year was the reverse way around. And I think I'm actually a fan of the fastest to slowest because I think even though it's not as nice to watch, a lot of the teams that are at the back end of that of autocross probably need a little bit more time to work on their car, maybe have a few problems, and that gives them that space. It also evens out the playing field a little bit. The fast cars have to go out on the slightly slower track where it's a bit dirtier. And deal with that, while the slower teams, they get a nice clean, warm track to go and rub it up track. So I think it evens it out a little bit, brings it a bit closer.
Obviously, competition is the culmination of a year's work for every team, so it's great to see as many cars complete an endurance, or at least get the chance to, as possible.
Yeah, and that extra time just to get the cars ready, it's a really good thing. You can really hear that engine. It does not sound like it sounded in autocross yesterday, and that's crossing the line in a 1:44.4. So that is the fastest lap we've seen from the cars, but well below the sort of pace. We have Wollongong hitting a cone there as it's coming down the hill. Maybe these cars they're just going out there banking a run, make sure they get that score on the board.
I've heard that from a couple of teams that the first endurance is a banker because you just want to get through one. So many points right on this event that if you don't complete either endurance, you will be down the order.
And I know rankings are fairly important. I know Monash used that world rankings as a bit of a standing of where they are. And we see the Wollongong car not looking too quick as well. That was a 2-minute 2.9, so that's well off the RMIT electric pace. This is not what we'd expected to happen. We expected these cars to come out and blast it. Maybe the track that's the times we're going to see.
And here's the fourth car out on track. Third car out on track, sorry, and it is Melbourne University.
So has the circuit changed much at all? Because it seems that if this is a lap time we're expecting, it's very different to what we saw in autocross.
Well, of course, the track is being run backwards, but as far as I know, that is the only change. There's now a pretty scary concrete wall next to one of the hairpins. That'll be interesting to watch.
You can really see them heading into that. And I know some of the teams are running out quite wide there, so they'll have to watch out. It does look like this Monash car is starting to speed up a little bit, so maybe it was just... And that was a 1:42.59. So I think that's what we'd expected to see. Just a couple of laps early on that were really well off the pace, but it looks like they've got it down now. Maybe this isn't a very experienced driver, but it certainly looks like he's getting into it now.
As you mentioned earlier, getting the first couple of laps right is really critical. Hopefully Wollongong can come back from this.
And Canterbury coming out. Currently I think, are they the best team in New Zealand?
No, not at all. They are pretty cool, though.
They're a good bunch of guys. Third year, I think. Is that right?
My understanding it is their third year. They've definitely got the most vibrant car on track right now and probably at the whole competition. You can see the wings from a mile away.
I think that's incredible. For a team that's been in this for 3 years to produce a car like that, I don't think I've ever seen a team in 3 years get to that sort of level.
It's really impressive, really impressive.
And we have Wollongong there with a 1:57.1.
So they are bringing it down quite quickly. We're going to have to see on this lap too. If they're making up 5 seconds a lap, we're going to see sub 1 minute.
Well, we're going to see the first Melbourne time here. This doesn't quite look like the driver that was doing autocross yesterday. And that's a 1:51.6. So I think that's a pretty decent first lap. I think this is just showing that those laps from that RMIT electric car, we didn't know whether that was going to be the class, but they were really quite competitive.
Oh.
It doesn't sound entirely right to me, that Monash. It looks like it's having some sort of issue. It's still coming through there with a 1:45.9, so that was about 3.5 seconds slower than the previous lap. So I don't know if there's a developing problem or they're just nursing it. Something doesn't seem quite right there.
The singles have always sounded like a rough-running lawnmower, so...
Oh,
Don't
that
know how
didn't look
much we
like
can
it
take
picked
from
up
that.
there at all, did it?
No, it really didn't. Canterbury coming round to complete their first lap. So it really is interesting. They've been posting skid pad times similar to Monash, may have pipped them even.
I think they did win.
The level of complexity compared to some other cars, it's really simple and really fast.
Well, Ricardo, one of the design judges, he'd spoken to me earlier in the competition, and it was his opinion that the Canterbury car is the fastest car here, and Monash is the fastest team.
We're just going to have to wait and see. So Canterbury's come through to complete their first lap with a 2:02.8. And here comes Wollongong. We'll wait for the timing screen to update, but they said a 1:55.3.
So at the moment, that RMIT electric car has done the second quickest lap time.
I don't know if I'm just imagining it, but the cars are bunching up, with Melbourne setting a 1:48.5, their quickest lap so far.
Well, I would expect that Melbourne car is going to come down in times quite quickly. They look like pretty decent opening laps. So let's hope that we can see some really good times this morning.
If we keep the delta from Melbourne to Wollongong increasing like that every lap, they will be passed.
Oh, it's always good to see a few passings going on in the comp.
Oh, that's right.
Monash cycling around there with a 1:46.6, so that's slower than the previous lap again.
If we're talking about passing, I think there's a good video on YouTube of Auckland passing ECU at the competition last year.
Oh, that was a myth. That was artificially created by in New Zealand.
There's more than one video, Kevin.
It was a very competitive competition last year, and both Auckland and ECU were incredibly close. It was good competition. I think when we arrived last year, we were only really picturing Monash as the main team to beat, and then all of a sudden, nearly overhauled by a very strong team in Auckland. And what has it been? I guess the last few years, you had a period where you were building custom engines, but the last few years, your competitiveness has gone through the roof.
And Canterbury coming through with a 1:46.0.
So that's the second fastest lap time we've seen this morning.
Canterbury picking up the pace very quickly.
So what would you attribute to the increased, I guess, finishing places that we're seeing from Auckland now?
I'd say from what I hear, the biggest problems with what we call the V single days, 2009 to 2012, we'll just take the Wollongong lap time. A 1:55.0. And Melbourne's catching up. Melbourne coming through with a 1:51.1. So yeah, the biggest change from the V single days was probably the reliability. I think they finished in endurance in 2011, but other than that, 2009 to 2013 they didn't. In 2013 we changed to a standard Yamaha WR450. We suffered an unfortunate failure in the final endurance, but since then we've been pretty reliable.
Well, that actually looks like it was a bit quicker there. Yeah, that's a 1:45, so he's found a little bit more pace. It does look like that car's maybe running a little bit better now.
2.5 seconds off their best lap so far, but still picking up the pace. Canterbury looking very quick coming down the back straight through the wide slaloms. We'll have to see what speed they have on the straight. And it does look reasonably quick too.
Yeah, it seemed to think at the end of the autocross there was a lot of popping from their engine that they didn't. I'm not hearing now, so I was wondering whether they had an engine issue, but it doesn't seem to have one now. It sounds okay.
Talking to the team earlier in the week, they were struggling with noise a little bit, and I think they went through 10 muffler iterations, so it could just be a different one.
That was a 1:44.57 from Canterbury.
Their best lap so far.
At the moment, that is the fastest car in the most in the recent laps. So if they can keep up that pace and run at that for the rest of the endurance, they do well. But they did. That's what we were talking about. That first lap from Canterbury, I think, was a 2-minute lap. They've just lost so many seconds in that first lap.
That's the problem. If the second driver does that across 7 laps, it's like losing 2 seconds a lap.
It's looking fairly clean. I think I've seen Wollongong hit a cone, but it doesn't look like there's been too many cones down. Wollongong there with a 1:51.9. Monash with a 1:49.1, so quite a... Oh, sorry. Melbourne, sorry, with a 1:49.1. They should be passing Wollongong soon, I'd imagine.
This lap or the next. In saying that, Wollongong are nearing the end of their first stint. As is Monash, the end of their first stint, setting a 1:44.77.
Now this is the big one. This car needs to start. They can't use an external starter. There's no external batteries. It needs to start on its own, get out there. And this is where you're really concerned about what's going to happen here. You know, driver is sitting in there, and the worst thing that can happen, it happens all too often, is that car just will not get going. Let's hope that's not the case for Monash.
We are sitting close to the Monash team up here on the hill. I'm sure we'll hear a cheer of the microphone when that starts.
Yeah, I think if that restarts and gets back out on track, you probably won't be able to hear commentary for the next 5 minutes or so. And we see Melbourne has passed Wollongong.
That was weird.
Yeah, Wollongong being held up quite a lot. I don't know whether that's a problem there. No, they are away. That was held up an incredible amount of time. For
Canterbury coming through, finishing a lap with a 1:57.5.
And that's quite a lot slower than their last lap, about 13 seconds slower.
13 seconds. We must have missed. There must have been a mistake somewhere around the track.
Yeah, at 15 seconds, it sounds like more than one mistake. So we always hope that when we see these slower lap times that there is a mistake out there and it's not a car issue. We always want to see as many cars finish as possible. There's been years in Australia where we've had over 60% of cars finishing, and the normal finishing rate for a Formula SAE endurance is closer to about 30% in worldwide competition. So Australia is known for getting a lot of cars over the line, and that's what we want to see.
Wollongong coming through with a 2:08. I think their last lap was a 1:51.8, so they were clearly held up by...
Oh, that was the passing
Yes,
lane.
yes, it was.
And this is their last lap of Wollongong before their driver change. We have Monash there. It doesn't sound like they've restarted at this stage, but the driver has swapped over. They are in there. The driver change time is 3 minutes. Any extra time beyond that is added to their final endurance score. So even if you start late, you can still get out there and get a time on the board. But every little bit of time isn't it good?
And Canterbury coming through to complete another lap. The time being a 1:46.4.
Okay, maybe that Monash car has restarted because they were pushing it up to the line. They usually start back in the driver change, so it's just very quiet now. So I don't know why they had problems passing noise because I can't hear the car at all.
No cheering from Monash behind us. Clearly not too excited about going out for the second stint.
I think obviously when they fixed that noise problem, they made it too quiet. So there we go, Monash are away.
Proving me wrong, very excited. Nearly looks like Wollongong's catching up to Melbourne a little bit.
Yeah, it looks like Melbourne's really slowed in the last lap or so. I think we'll find out. The last lap from... do you have the time for the last lap from Melbourne?
I do. It's a 1:51.6, and they've just set a 1:59.2. 8 seconds off their previous lap. And Wollongong's come in for a driver change.
Well, I did notice as it came into the driver change, it did sound like there was a little bit of missing there or something, whether that car's getting quite hot, the Wollongong car.
They're only 2 seconds off their best lap time. It was a quick in-lap.
Well, really this morning session, it's just about getting that time, getting that endurance finished. When you think, it's quite amazing how this competition is. With the autocross yesterday with unlimited runs, it looks like you've probably got more laps in autocross than you're going to get in endurance. How many laps did Auckland manage to pull off in autocross? I mean, you weren't running the whole time.
I'm not quite sure. I think we went through once in the first session. We had a bit of a failure, and 3 or 4 times in the second session. Canterbury coming through with a 1:46.08, 1.5 off their best lap. And by my calculation, the driver change.
Oh, Monash back out. They're about to finish their first lap after the driver change. If this car finishes the endurance with a decent time, the fact that they'll use a little. At the moment, they're not leading the competition, but if they should use a fair bit less fuel than ECU, so they should win this competition if they put in a decent endurance time.
And that first outlap was a 1:47.3. How many laps did ECU do in autocross?
Oh, in the end, they got a few at the end. There was a lot of yellow laps, so they had a lot of waving through. We did enough to run out of fuel, so hopefully it's less than 14 laps of endurance. Hopefully it was greater, sorry, than 14 laps of endurance. Melbourne really slow here, so that's definitely a car issue.
And time for the Melbourne driver swap too. We'll have to see if it can pick it up in the second stint. Wollongong released back onto the track after their driver change.
It looks like Melbourne wasn't able to quite get to that driver change. Real issue there. It's a real shame.
Driver hitting a cone on the outlap. Hopefully their outlap will be substantially quicker than their first stint, and they'll be able to keep the times down. Interestingly, they recorded the number of laps on skid pad yesterday too, and we did a whopping 134 laps of skid pad.
Oh, the Auckland car was out very early, first car on skid pad.
Yes, we were the first car out on skid pad.
Which is a credit to the team and the engineering involved. And Canterbury in there with a 1:45.8 in for their driver swap. And I think this Canterbury car doesn't look like anything's going to stop them this weekend. Going to put in a very solid result, and depending on how the other teams go, they could end up taking this event.
They are reliable, they are quick, they're a turbo single, so they shouldn't use too much fuel. It's going to be very interesting.
I think they're a big message to all the teams there. 3 years to get to a level of that. It can be done. A 1:46.4 from Monash. So it looks like this second driver's getting the times down a little bit quicker. Probably a bit, track's a little bit cleaner. Tyres are a little bit warmer. He's probably getting the better driving conditions.
So if you have noticed the very bright pink wings on the Canterbury car and the blue chassis, that is meant to be a homage to the John Britton bike. So John Britton, I believe, was also from Canterbury, and with humble beginnings produced a world-class engineered bike. And that's clearly what Canterbury are going for here too.
Yeah, I think the movie, we spoke about this yesterday, but the movie about the building of that bike and the design of the bike is incredibly inspirational. And I know when I was back as a student at UWA, we used to watch that video as a team to inspire us that a fellow that's sitting in his shed managed to build a car capable of taking on the world. Wollongong there, crossing the line in a 1:53.1. If you want to get any of these times and not wait for us to call them out, you're welcome to go on to NatSoft. All the timing is done by the same sort of people that are doing timing at any of the professional events. They're fantastic timetronics. They do a great job. And all of this is up on NatSoft Live. So you go to www.natsoft.com.au, go through circuit racing, and you'll find the event there on Formula SAE at Calder Park.
We're about the third event down on the list, and to get to the live timing, you need to click on the link on the right-hand side of the screen that says live with a number of viewers below it.
Monash coming through here. Car's looking like it's okay. Whatever I was seeing in a slow car before, it doesn't look like it's affecting it much. Looks like just a solid run from them. And that's a 1:41.87. So, yeah, definitely whatever problems or speed they were having, maybe they were just holding back and getting this banking run as we predicted.
That is the quickest lap we've seen of the day. And based on the autocross times yesterday, there's still a couple of seconds in it. Hearing a lot of wheel spin on some of the corner exits.
Well, they do have a pneumatic shifter. I'm wondering whether that's picking the gears properly, whether there's some sort of delay there. It certainly doesn't look like the shifts are occurring very well.
I hear they're very up on torque this year too compared to last year. So
big changes from the Monash team. They've had a fairly similar concept for a while, and they have a 2-year build phase. And I think this year they've done more changes than we've seen from them for a long time. Interconnected suspension system. Carbon fibre wheels, 3D printed front uprights. I think they had 3D printed rear uprights, but they're not on the car, so I don't know exactly what happened there. I think maybe some of them are left on the training track somewhere.
Canterbury have completed their driving change and are just waiting for Wollongong to come through with a 1:48.7, their best lap so far.
Yeah, so big changes from Monash, and of course everyone adapting to the new aerodynamic rules, which has greatly reduced one of the advantages they've had. So focusing a lot more on mechanical grip, reduction of weight, and obviously done a very good job. They're at the class of the field again.
If I heard their design presentation correctly, they think they have very similar downforce numbers with 70% of the drag. And that's from a smaller rear wing.
And we have Melbourne unable to restart in the driver change, and we have I think both of our teams lined up in the driver area, Auckland and ECU.
Going to have to be careful with our commentary now.
That was a 1:44.08. There's no secrets in the commentary. I'm incredibly biased. I'm always going for the West Australian teams. I'm Victoria. It's a nice place to visit once a year.
And Canterbury back out on track.
If you're looking for unbiased commentary, I think you probably need to go and listen to something else.
Yeah,
but it might be pretty interesting seeing both of our cars out there competing against each other.
I'm not going to say I'm unbiased. My biggest goal for the day today is not to swear on the live commentary.
Well, that's actually been a bit of a problem in the past. I've got two things. First of all, I realise it's up on YouTube and recorded for prosperity's sake, and my boss is here today, so I've got to be on my best behaviour.
Should we recount one of the credit card stories?
No, I think we'll hold that one. Thank you very much, Isaac.
Auckland are lined up to start. Clearly going to wait for Wollongong to come through and build up a bit of a gap. Wollongong coming through with a 1:48.4, their quickest lap again. The driver's just going quicker and quicker in this stint. Yeah,
I'm fully expecting we'll see the two quickest drivers from Wollongong in the afternoon session, and they'll be really flying.
So their autocross time yesterday, I hear they did hit some cones on it, but they did set a 1:38.8 at one point.
And I think when you're hopping out in endurance, you don't really drive the same way you do with autocross. You just back it down to, say, 95%. Keep away from the cones. A 2-second penalty on cones, it's very hard to make up by going a little bit faster. So a bit cleaner, and you usually end up with a better endurance time. And that's Monash there with a 1:42.19. So they're running very quickly.
Obviously, throwing the car into maybe a tyre or stopping on track in an autocross means you have the Saturday night to fix your car before an endurance. But today, there's only a couple of hours before the second one, so you don't want to be having any major fixes or failures on the car.
Well, Monash are only about 2 laps away from finishing this endurance, and probably about 2 laps away from winning yet another Australian competition.
Just
unless somebody can go out there and, well, really at this stage, if they finish this, by our calculations, by this stage, the only team that will have a chance of catching them is ECU if they finish this. And that's assuming that ECU can match the times, which I don't think we're going to see given what we had from autocross.
And I'm very excited to say Auckland is out on track. Yeah, I'm definitely biased.
Oh, it's an amazing car. Do you have a name for it?
We do. The MO15. We stick with a simple naming scheme.
The MO15. Oh, it's an inspiring name.
I'd like to say something fantastic about love and meaning in foreign languages, but that's just the designation of the car.
That sounds very German-esque.
Wollongong coming through with a 1:48.07, quickest lap again.
Okay, Monash coming down the hill. This is our second last lap from them.
I don't think Wollongong have had a lap yet with their second driver that hasn't been quicker than the last.
Yeah, and that's what we usually see in an endurance lap is the times just keep coming down and down as the tyres heat up and the driver gets accustomed to the lap. Monash coming through. It doesn't look like it's fast, but it's still putting in the lap times. We'll see what this one is. A 1:50.9, so yeah, definitely off the pace. It was looking a bit slow, but they only need to finish this lap. They'll be doing everything just to get over the line, get that endurance run, and they do not need to score very highly in endurance to put them in a really good chance to win it. Running the single-cylinder turbo tends to use a lot less fuel than the fours. So at the moment, going into today, ECU was ahead, but probably only by about 1 point. So ECU really need to take advantage of pace if they can do it. Canterbury there with a 1:46.9.
I'd love to think Monash have burned through 8 litres of fuel, but I really doubt it.
No, I think they're going to be pretty good on. They're usually pretty good on fuel, and they run E85, which is usually an advantage. We see ECU coming up to the line.
A cone strike by Wollongong down on the straight, and Auckland coming through to complete their first lap.
I think I'll read the Auckland lap time because otherwise your voice might break. We're at a 1:54.9. That's a very good first lap.
Oh, hopefully we'll see it pick up a bit from now. As we said, it's all about those first couple of laps. So imagine a little bit after Wollongong coming through, ECU will come out.
Yeah, ECU are lined up. They're We're ready to go, just at the start line.
And look at that again, Wollongong coming through with another best lap, a 1:47.04.
Oh, this is textbook endurance driving from the Wollongong driver. So this fella definitely deserves a pat on the back, maybe a pint of beer or something at the end of the day. He's doing exactly what his team needs him to do right now.
With such a long lap from our esteemed drivers, I hear there's always more time to pick up.
ECU's being held quite a long time getting out, just waiting for the Monash car to come around. It looks like it's going to finish this lap. I mean, they've done it. Its car went away both nights. They've taken it back every single night. They've come out, one autocross. It's probably second in skid pad. And they've just finished endurance, a 1:52.118. So definitely off the pace. That won't be an endurance winning time. I wouldn't imagine that will be the endurance winning run that we saw. But it may have been the comp winning run.
They've put in their banker at least. We might see them out in the afternoon going really hard. And Canterbury coming through with a 1:46.04.
And they keep holding that ECU car on the line there. I don't know whether they're looking to feed that in.
There might be a gap between Wollongong and Canterbury now.
Well, it looks like they've had them held there for almost a complete lap.
Are you a bit worried about fuel consumption?
Well, it is using fuel. Yeah, of course I'm worried. My heart's in my throat at the moment. I am biased.
Excellent.
Auckland's looking fairly steady.
Wollongong's getting a bit close.
So Auckland there with a 1:54.66. So not really at the pace we'd wanted to see from them. They set an early pace in the autocross. It was actually quite a long time before that time was hauled in. And Wollongong over the line, a 1:49.4. So he does manage to find a lap where he goes slower than the last one. But he's still doing a fantastic job, and he is on the last lap. If Wollongong finish this, they have finished their first endurance, which will mean a fantastic finish for that team.
With any luck, I think yes, we are. Here goes ECU onto the track. A gentle launch. And across the timing line.
That doesn't sound good at all.
I was going to say something, but...
I'm hoping that's just a cold engine.
We'll see. In the true spirit of the competition, I'd love to see every team finish at least one endurance. So.
Canterbury coming through with a 1:45.6, so right up with their better laps. Yeah, I know it's very hard doing this commentary sometimes, and if the ECU car isn't doing very well, you probably get some very terse commentary. Probably like, yeah, fine, that good lap time from Auckland there.
I hadn't thought about that yet. I've just clicked that we're both on track at the same time. Oh, God. Looks like Auckland's maintained the delta back to Wollongong. It's still a bit too close for my liking, but we're probably going to see a very consistent lap time here. I'm not sure what driver we have in right now. Kevin, you can read it out.
It looks like ECU hitting some cones over at the other end of the track.
Auckland coming through with a 1:51.4.
Well, that's getting down in time. And Wollongong finished their endurance. Well done, a 1:48.9. Quite a solid run there. We have Curtin coming out on track. Curtin have done very well in this competition in the past.
In my opinion, one of the better sounding four-cylinder teams. Of course, most of the four-cylinders sound better than the turbo and naturally aspirated singles, but ECU coming round towards completing their first lap. I'd be very interested to see that time, Kevin.
Well, it looks like there was a bit of a gear change issue right there. This will not be a quick lap time. I'm not expecting anything impressive here. That first lap, yes, it was a 2:01, so very much non-competitive, and you can hear the engines really struggling there.
Canterbury coming on to their second to last lap by my calculations.
My best estimation is it looks like the traction control is coming in far too aggressively there. Probably a little bit of a problem for that ECU car. So hopefully they can get the time on the board, get something finished, and we'll see where we go from there. So Auckland coming through there with a 1:52.2.
Picking up the time a little bit. Hopefully we'll end up even quicker. Curtin coming through the slalom and the back straight looking very quick. As is ECU.
Yeah, they're running very, very slowly.
I see it looks quick from here. We're just going to have to wait on that lap time. Although it does look like Canterbury's catching the pack. And Curtin complete their first lap with a 2:09.1. We're seeing a lot of these first lap times in the low 2 minutes, but are coming down very quickly, so we'll have to wait and see. And ECU coming around to complete their second lap with a 1:54.6, a lot quicker.
Yeah, I think he's struggling around it, but you can hear the engine cutting out pretty much the whole way around.
So Canterbury coming in onto their last lap of this endurance. A stunningly quick car, consistently low lap times. Just keeping an eye on it, it looks like they've been within 3 or 4 seconds of their best lap this whole second stint of the endurance.
It's certainly hard to watch your car when it's not performing anywhere near what you've seen in testing, and I'm sure that's something that's a shared feeling by a number of teams. It is a lot of work to come out here and not perform at your absolute best, but that's not what the competition. While it is a race, it is an educational opportunity, and you still don't lose those opportunities. And that's Auckland through there with a 1:52.4. So quite a bit off Canterbury's pace. And at this sort of thing, I don't think the fuel's going to be enough to overcome Canterbury.
I don't think so, but we'll just have to wait and see on the other drivers and if this guy can get any quicker.
So we've got two commentators here, a little bit down in the dumps, both expecting their cars would be going a little bit faster than what they are, and trying to contain a little bit of disappointment. But we see there is good action out there, that Canterbury's moving quite well. They're going to have a really good endurance time for this event. And Curtin coming through there with a 1:59.2.
ECU do look like they're having a gear change problem or two, perhaps on the upshift, but they are still running.
Well, I think
coming through with a 1:55.96.
They're pulling it in to have a look at it.
The clapping is not for ECU being pulled in. The clapping is for Canterbury finishing. So congratulations to the University of Cantebury.
Canterbury with a 1:50.7.
That's a quick in-lap too. And it looks like we have the University of Newcastle out on track.
It looks like the scrutineers are looking over something with the ECU car. Or the driver may have just decided to pull it in and give it a shot in that second run. This is quite amazing, actually. Since 2009... Edith, Cowan University hasn't managed to miss an endurance event. They've been a very reliable team for a number of years. It's one of the things the team focuses on. And this is certainly not something that they would have been aiming for. But rest assured, they will give it a go and be back this afternoon.
With few exceptions, reliability is a very big factor in coming in the top in comp.
So Auckland there with a 1:54.
1:53.9, thanks.
I'm sort of rounding that just a little bit. A 1:53.9473.
Thank you, Kevin.
If we want to be really accurate.
I'm amazed at their timing to the 10,000th of a second.
Well, one of our team members, who will remain unnamed, was going through and getting a part machined and was wondering how many decimal places you could machine the part to. And we thought that was quite interesting, and so that's become the norm. So instead of tolerancing it, let's machine this part to 2 decimal places. Okay, Curtin coming through here. It's looking a fairly solid run, but not quite at the pace we've seen before, so a 1:58.7. Or if we want to go to the 10,000th per second, 0.6691. Sounds definitely like the sort of thing Jeff would want to hear.
Curtin, like a bunch of other teams I hear, had a little bit of trouble passing noise, but it's very good to see they have made it through. And the University of Newcastle comes through. Ooh, just nicking Cowan. Didn't fall over, though.
Oh, you've got to love those ones.
With a 2:05.0176.
Well, this Newcastle car, was, when you have a look at the cars that this was running around, they were putting in some very impressive lap times in autocross. They're sitting quite high up in the run order, and the drivers were really throwing them around. I don't know whether that's they just got a couple of really good drivers there, or whether that car is very well sorted. So it's worth having a look at. Make the decision yourself. Is it the drivers or is it the car?
And I've got some bad news. It would appear Auckland has stopped on track. I'm not sure what's happened there. If we would appear to have hit a cone looking back. Hopefully nothing's too damaged, but that is going to impede the cars behind us. Sorry to the other teams. We see yellow flags waving. Curtin slowing down.
This is so here we are commentating this amazing competition. We have the faculty advisor for Edith, Cowan University, whose car has just been wheeled away. The team leader for Auckland, who their car's been wheeled into the grass. And so it's not looking too good for us, is it, Isaac?
It's looking a bit like Formula Baja out there right now. We are in the middle of the weeds. Quick, someone get a photo. It's very scenic. No, it looks like we're going to have to wait till the end of the endurance session to even recover that car, which is unfortunate because it gives us less time to fix any problems there may now be.
Yeah, absolutely. That's not something that you want. You don't want to be stranded out here. And this, I guess, it's tables turned. I guess the Monash car had so many reliability problems, both in pre-competition testing and at the competition. Gone out and completed a great endurance run, and yet two of the reliable teams have just failed on the day.
That's just how the competition works sometimes, I guess. Curtin coming through with a 2:06.7, but obviously held up by our yellow flags.
Oh, I think Curtin missed the skid pad and the acceleration. It was a real shame for them. They'll be looking to just get a really solid results finish from here.
Newcastle coming through with a 2:00.1 on their second lap. It is disheartening to see the Auckland car sitting in the middle of the field, but we'll get it back.
The MO5.
15.
15?
MO15. That's 2015, Kevin.
Oh, well, I thought you were saying MO5. I can't understand that funny accent you've got.
Accent? What accent? It's you guys. 23 million of you.
What is the population of New Zealand?
The population of Sydney. About 4.5. So it looks like we've got Wesmo out on track from Waikato University, not Waikato.
Oh, they were pumping out the laps in autocross. They looked very stable, good drivers. Looked like they were running hard.
Now, they've been a reasonably small team for the last couple of years, and they still are. I think this is their third or fourth year competing at FSAE Australasia, but they are getting consistently better and consistently quicker. I love the look of their car, too.
Yeah, do you ever get together with any of the New Zealand teams back home, do a test session with Canterbury or Waikato, or is it just not feasible?
Well, Canterbury's actually on a different island, so how often do you get with the University of Tasmania? But we've talked about it with Waikato before, but to date we haven't.
Wait, New Zealand's an island?
It's 3.
3 islands, oh, there you go.
Yeah, and Curtin coming round to complete a 1:59.25.
Well, I'll put it to you the other way. There might be 3 islands, but they're a bit closer than Perth is to the eastern states.
That's a fair point. The most geographically isolated city in the world. Looks like it takes you 36 hours to drive here.
It also happens to be the most socially isolated city in the world.
Oh, talking to the ECU team, they're all pretty friendly. Ooh, Newcastle just nicking a cone again, but it didn't fall over, setting a 1:58.6. That's a very quick time, their best lap so far.
Oh, well, of course, the West Australian teams, when they come over here, it's a bit of excitement for them. They've never seen so many people. They do get a bit deer in the headlights and maybe jabber on a bit.
What's the population of Perth like?
I think it's about 5
million.
No, 5.
Oh.
Perth's very spread out. They're very centre of the city. It's a beautiful place to live. There's lots of beaches, lots of sun. The only thing is in summer, a 40-degree day is pretty much par for the course. So I love looking forward to the summer in Western Australia. It's a good chance to sit by the pool with a beer in your hand.
Oh, it looks like Waikato's gone off at one of the last hairpins. They are still running. They do seem to be turning around. A little bit of Baja off-road and they're back on track. Yeah, I think it's one of those things that teams don't think about. For some of the New Zealand teams, coming over here it's really hot, a very different climate compared to testing in New Zealand. We frequently have, well, in the past we have had cooling issues. We have the infamous Moki duct that some team seems to want to borrow every year for cooling issues. It's actually an old team member's mum's dryer heater hose. Works very well. And Waikato coming through with a 2-minute 31.8, obviously with their off.
Yeah, it looks like that was a driver issue rather than a car issue. Let's at least hope that. Curtin coming through here, definitely looking a lot fairly solid, a 158.2. We might end up through this endurance pretty quickly. There's not all of the field is set up. There was, I think, 18 cars that ran through autocross, and we're seeing a few of the cars dropping out. This could end up being a fairly short endurance run. And that's Newcastle coming through with a 156.1, their fastest lap so far.
It's going to be tight. The driver, it's just a cone strike because it's not very protected at all. So yeah, you get a bit unlucky with that sometimes. But we considered putting a guard in front of it yesterday, but it just messes with the intake airflow so much. Not much we can do about it. It's a newest driver too, but he's clearly being himself.
So we do have a word from Auckland. It looks like what happened out there is the driver just decided that he liked the look of one of the people on the hill. I think he must have found somebody a bit attractive up there, wanted to come and have a bit of a chat. He is single. He's a fairly attractive looking fella. Soon to be an engineer. That's always a good thing. Nice house, nice life. Unfortunately, he's probably more attracted to cars than the opposite sex. So it's a bit of a give and take situation. I guess the team won't be too happy that he's decided to come here and use it as a bit of a pickup opportunity instead of finishing the laps, but I guess that happens.
It's all right, we'll get back out on track for the second one. Waikato coming through this time with presumably a quicker lap of a 2:06. Yes, it's 25 seconds quicker than the previous. No off-roading this time.
Curtin coming through. Doesn't look like a very quick end, but a 158.2, so very consistent.
No, you're reading the best lap. That last lap was a 2:06.8 from Curtin.
Oh, sorry, I was reading their best lap, a 2:06.8.
So a little off the pace.
Sorry, my little mobile phone is not quite as advanced as your engineered data center.
This thing is falling apart, and it's going to run out of battery. Why is there no power up on the hill?
Yeah, I think at some stage this phone's going to run out of battery, your computer's going to run out of battery, and we'll probably run out of energy as well.
We're going to have no timing for the end of the first endurance. And Newcastle coming through with a 2:18.5. A couple of slow laps from the last couple of cars. There must be something happening out on track.
Well, we have seen this happen in the Australian competition before, where we have the two endurances, which is uncommon for the competitions, and the finish rate in the first endurance tends to be quite a bit lower than what we see in the second. So teams having problems and then coming out and fixing those for another run. Okay, University of Sydney are out on track. Quite a different looking car from University of Sydney. I think they've changed the colour scheme. It's very hard for me to tell the difference between them and Newcastle at the moment, both with the black and orange. So if we do make a mistake calling out Sydney when it is a Newcastle, then please come over and abuse us. It's always feedback, any sort of feedback, positive or negative, tends to help.
Abuse Kevin. I have a keen eye. I'm not going to get it wrong. Yeah, I was talking to some people from Sydney earlier. They have a very interesting car. It's very cool. Everyone should go take a look at it.
Yeah, I think this year one of the things that's really surprised me, and I think speaking to some of the design judges, they were really pleased about the difference between cars. That's why Waikato there with a 159.8.
What was that? Pronounce the university again?
Waikato, is that right?
Waikato.
Waikato?
Waikato, you're just making a fool of yourself.
Waikato.
Yeah, that's
There
the
we go.
one. Yeah, so that's their quickest lap so far.
Well, what you probably don't know with my incredibly suave accent is that most of my family comes from country Victoria. I'm actually a little bit of a ring in here. I'm a false Western Australia. I was born in Tasmania, so occasionally can put on the twang. Country Victoria, known for its sophisticated populace.
I'm hearing these names. I assume they're states. When I came into the country for my arrival card, I put Queensland. I clearly have no idea where I am. Looks like Newcastle coming through there, just nicking a cone towards the end of the lap.
I believe that's Sydney.
Nah, that's Newcastle.
Oh, well, I will get it right.
Getting a lap of 2:01.7.
Well, they're both New South Wales team. New South Wales is a state in Australia.
How many are there?
I think, well, there you go. I just failed primary school. Is it 6 and 2 territories?
I'm going to catch you out a couple of times like that today. And here's Sydney, the other orange and black car.
Sydney's engine hunting there a little bit.
Seems quite loud from up on the hill, but presumably they pass noise. Setting a 2:05.9 on their first lap. Very similar to a lot of other teams.
Well, the noise restrictions have tightened up quite a lot this year with the rules change, and definitely the cars are sounding a lot quieter. It seems like both Formula 1 and Formula SAE have gone the same way, quieter cars.
I look forward to more V6 engines in Formula SAE. Now, the both of us missed Curtin going in for their driver change, but they've actually done it, and they're about to come out back onto the track. Probably a bit of a gap after Waikato.
Waikato.
Do you know where the Waikato is?
What's that?
Do you know where Waikato is in New
It's
Zealand?
in a volcano.
Is it a town? Is it a province? Is it
I think Waikato is a suburb of Auckland, isn't it?
Greater Auckland, yes.
Greater Auckland. I've heard from the other New Zealand people that they don't refer to Auckland as Greater Auckland.
Well, by saying that, I might get shanked by about 10 people from Waikato. Canterbury's from Greater Auckland. And Curtin are back out on track. So it looks like we have four cars on track right now. Curtin, Waikato, Newcastle, and Sydney all posting reasonably competitive times. Of course, with the fastest to slowest schedule for today, we're hoping for a dark horse or two to pop up mid-order and shoot to the top of the timing boards, but we're just going to have to wait and see. Newcastle coming through with a 1:59.3. So I was talking about the efficiency calculation earlier, and I mentioned they weigh the fuel when it goes in, they do the endurance, and then they have a half-hour parc ferme where the team is not allowed to touch the car before the tank is refilled with fuel, and the difference between that and the full is used for your efficiency calculation. Not sure what they're trying to stop from happening with the half-hour parc ferme. There must be some form of cheating. Here comes Sydney again. Sydney posting a 1:59.2. So it's looking very competitive between Sydney and Newcastle. That'll be a pairing to keep an eye on. And Waikato too. Wow, all within a tenth or two of each other. Sydney sounding like they're hunting for a gear, but they've got it.
Okay, a little bit of an update with I do have an update from the ECU car. That was actually a black flagged. There was a little bit of a problem with the car. So it did have the traction control issue and a bit of a problem. So not going to plan. When you see a car going around and you've done 500 Ks testing on it and it's been very solid and without an issue, to come here and have these sorts of problems, it's very frustrating.
Waikato coming through with their quickest lap so far by far, a 1:54.7, and Curtin a 1:55.6. All the times coming down now very quickly. Yes, it's always a compromise as to how much testing you want to do, testing distance versus component breakages. Ideally, you want to break everything once so you have an idea of when it's going to break, but that's a lot of testing, or for some teams, not much.
Well, I think I was discussing exactly this issue with Scott from Monash, and he likened it to sort of riding a set of waves. You know, these cars, there are times where it just seems that nothing's going right, and there's times where just everything comes together, and you sort of want the comp to be on one of those peaks and not in one of the troughs, but you sometimes just don't get it your way.
With the exception of one or two small events throughout the year, our car was very, very, very reliable compared to previous ones. So we came into competition thinking It would be, and you know, it's made it through all the events so far. We'll have to see what damage to the car, if any, when it gets pulled in. Ooh, Sydney stopping on track. Smoke coming.
That looked like it was coming from the front end of the car.
That is coming from the front, but it's not looking like tyre smoke. The driver should probably get out of the car.
Okay, the driver needs to exit that car.
Yeah, egress, can you hear me? Get out.
Okay, so that must be a brake or something. Must have locked a brake on or something.
Shattered a brake disc or something. Hopefully not. Driver doesn't seem too fussed about the smoke.
Yeah, so I think that must have been a brake, must have been locked on or something for the last lap, and it's just caught on fire. But
it looks like it's a red flag on the track, which means the cars are required to stop at the flag point. Presumably they'll actually let them pass. Depends how long they think it'll take to let Sydney through. Yes, Curtin and Wesmo ending up very bunched up now.
Well, the problem is if that
Curtin not slowing yet.
If that is a locked brake, then that'll be a very hard car to move. The unfortunate thing for these teams that are coming in,
they are calling the cars into the.
I know they are letting them.
I thought there was a pit signal there, but we'll have to wait and see. Curtin is being called in. I think Waikato was too, but they have gone around for another lap.
Yeah, Curtin with the 201. It does get very confusing when you've got these red flag laps. With such a long lap, even doing one extra lap might put you in the risk of running out of fuel in the event. So it is something that these teams don't want to happen. We never want to see red flags in an event.
Curtin being waved straight through the pits, lining up again. That was not the completion of their endurance, so I think that was just for track safety reasons. And the Sydney car has been wheeled off track. You said it would be difficult, Kevin. They just pushed it right back.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. It must have been, maybe the driver was even dragging the brake or something like that. Occasionally that can happen.
It will be interesting. If someone from Sydney wants to come tell us, we'll spread it over the commentary. And Curtin are back out on track.
I remember a few years ago that RMIT were driving around the track with a rear brake on fire. They had a fluid leak. It got onto the brake and set a light, so it could just be a fluid leak or something like that.
On fire. Yeah,
and it was actually being allowed to run. So you could see the rear brake smoke, and I was sort of holding a few people up, but it still got through, finished the endurance.
Again, cars on track now, we're missing things, but it does look like Newcastle have come in for a driver change, and they're just waiting to let them out, and there they go. So I actually haven't had a chance to talk to the University of Newcastle, despite the fact they're in the pit next to us. Kevin, do you know much about their car?
No, I'm pretty much in the same point. I think you get here and you really want to talk to the other teams and find out what's going on, but you're so busy and caught up with what your own team's doing that you often don't get that opportunity.
Waikato catching a cone at one of the final hairpins, but coming around to complete lap 6, which means they're on to their final lap of the first half of their endurance. We'll be expecting a driver swap after this.
Yeah, Waikato there with a 1:55.5.
They've really brought the times down. Very competitive against Curtin, although it is saying their last lap was a 40 second, not 1 minute 40, just 40. I presume that's a timing error with their pit lane entry.
Yeah, that's when they just ripped around the pits. So at the moment, Curtin are looking like the fastest car on track with a 40-second lap time, and I don't think that's going to be beaten today.
I don't expect that to be beaten by anyone. Looks like they're lining up UQ Petrol to the start.
Well, by our calculations, the University of Queensland are sitting in 3rd place at the moment. So if they have a really good run in this endurance, they do have a hope.
Curtin sitting a 1:51.24. Now, I can't see what their best lap is anymore because they did a 40-second lap, but I think that's pretty down there for them. That pit lap might actually mess with our timing a bit, but we'll try to keep on top of it.
Yeah, we just won't be able to figure out what the best lap time from Curtin was, so we'll only be able to give you the updated times as they come through. So at the moment, only Curtin and Waikato. Waikato, is that right?
Waikato.
Waikato.
Third time.
Third time. It's going to probably be the 20th time by the time I
You're
get it
also
right.
missing Newcastle.
Waikato.
Newcastle.
Oh, Newcastle's on track as well. And I can say Newcastle, Waikato, Kato. I'm just going to let you name the red team. the moment, the fastest lap that's been done was done by Monash. It was a 1:41.87. The next was Canterbury with a 1:44.5. Wollongong with a 1:47 flat. Queensland with a 1:47.3. So you've got the fourth fastest car, hopefully about to restart, but it looks like they've pulled them away.
Yes, I'm afraid I've seen the University of Queensland petrol car pushed back through into the access road. They do appear to be returning to the pits.
And after Queensland, we had Curtin with a 1:47.8, Melbourne with a 1:48.5, RMIT with a 1:49.6. So we see that electric car is still quite high up there. In fact, the electric car is still faster than Missouri, Auckland, and Edith, Cowan University, Waikato, Newcastle, Sydney, and Tasmania.
I'm only crying a little. But Griffith have just come through with a 1:53.3. And Adelaide, of course, now out on track.
Well, Griffith, just to put this in perspective, so you have 7 people there that completed this car over 2 years. They've just put in a lap time faster than Edith Cowan University.
And Auckland.
Not
quite.
Just
Very close.
under Auckland. Very close to Auckland's time. So they're the teams that finished second and third last year. So that just puts in perspective what these guys have managed to achieve. Now, but of course, Auckland and ECU had their problems, but that's what this competition involves.
And it looks like the University of Missouri has caught up to the University of Tasmania. We can expect them to be passed, with Mizzou placing a 1:50.2.
And Tasmania, unfortunately, have collected a cone there. They've got a cone sitting under their front suspension. Now it looks like it's moved to the side pod.
On the left side pod.
Now the problem with picking up cones is if you get it under the front suspension, you can massively reduce your steering response, and you can really struggle to get the car around. If you get it stuck in a side pod, and often the people in these passing lanes might actually pull a cone out of a car and help them out, and we'll see whether that happens.
I think that's been banned this year, but I'm not sure.
I know, it's straight back out. If you do get a cone caught in your side pod and you're trying to get cooling air through that, it can really lead to overheating.
So I've been reliably informed by someone from UTAS that they have cooling on both sides, so hopefully it'll be okay.
Okay. We have Griffith there with a 1:50.99. That's now moved them faster than Auckland and snapping at the heels of Missouri there. This is really quite a very simple car. It just shows what a great job they've done.
With a car like Griffith and Canterbury being reasonably simple too, coming through near the top of the pack, it's very interesting. Adelaide coming around to complete their first lap with a 2:04.4, about on par with the other teams.
I think this is the first car that's University of Adelaide that we've actually been able to hear out there.
Surprisingly loud. I think they had a problem with 2 passing noise at some point, but they've clearly made it through. It's a very good sound. Oh, the pops on the upshift.
Well, we said here with the Griffith guys that we weren't sure how they'd go, selecting 5 drivers out of 7 people, but it looks like it's worked pretty well.
Missouri coming through with a 1:52.09.
So at the moment, 4 cars out there. Griffith is the fastest car in the last few laps.
University of Tasmania coming through. They appear to have cleared the cone and they're going in for their driver change.
Now we're up on the hill, and when Monash were out there, we had probably near on about 150 people sitting up here cheering. And as this Griffith car is going around and posting these times, we've got the whole team here. Probably the whole. Is Griffith a town? I don't know. You'd know.
I'm from New Zealand.
So if Griffith is a town, we've probably got half of Griffith out here with 4 people cheering loudly for this car. Griffith there, a 1:49.6 from Griffith.
The times are still dropping.
What an amazing drive. He's knocked off Missouri and he's chasing down the times put down by RMIT electric car. Then after that, we're into Melbourne. I mean, Melbourne were setting the pace. They were the fastest in the first autocross run, and Griffith are at that sort of pace.
So you're telling me Griffith isn't a state?
Knocked a cone there. Griffith's. I don't think Griffith's a state. I think it's a.
I'm learning.
It's a town or
I'm
something
learning
like
today.
The guys from Griffith down there, you're watching this. Is it a town, a state, or a suburb?
Oh, they're not listening to us. But Adelaide coming through with a 1:54.4, their best lap so far.
I believe some of the comments that I'm hearing from the Griffith guys out here as they're watching it, big smiles on their face. They're really enjoying what they're seeing. And I think they said, well, it's charmingly delightful to see the car there. It was either that or it was
that's what I heard too.
F something awesome.
It couldn't be that.
I can't, but Gold Coast.
Griffith from the Gold Coast. Is that a state?
How did they even build a car with all those beaches around? Missouri there, a 153.3.
So Griffith, definitely the quickest car on track right now. 8th overall time out of the 16 competitors we've had so far.
I tell you what, guys, we've got to cheer this Griffith car as it's coming through. This is great to watch. I think this is exactly what we want to see in this competition. A brand new team coming in, simple car, running hard. I think we've seen Canterbury come up in 3 years. You know, who knows what we could see from Griffith if they keep this sort of development up.
Griffith coming through with a 149.5.
They're pumping them out, a 149.5. That's amazing.
No, this is a stunning show of speed from a first-year team. They might take the title from Auckland for best first-year team back in the day.
Oh, this is a great finish. I had a look at this car and had a chat to some of the guys there, and they were very knowledgeable. They'd spent a lot of time on it. They probably spent less on their entire car over 2 years than some of the teams spend on tyres. And they've done an amazing job. They've just put all of their effort and their money on what counts.
And we can hear Adelaide coming from a mile away, coming through to complete their 3rd or 4th lap, I'm not sure. With a 155.8.
The great thing about this Griffith team is it's just showing all of the teams there really are no excuses. With a small number of people and a small budget, you can produce a competitive Formula SAE car. I know Zed on the forums has been very vocal. He's a very vocal fellow. Eric Zapedal walks around this track. He's probably a bit nicer in person to speak to than on the forums, where he really challenges the students. But he's been talking about this for a long time. Very simple cars.
And Missouri coming into the pits for their driver change, half an endurance down.
That was a very solid run from those Missouri. I think they started at a 152 and ended in a 150.7.
And Tasmania are back out on track. Hopefully the cone they picked up for a lap or two has not done any damage to the car.
Unless I'm mistaken, I'm actually seeing, it looks like Monash lined up for, either they're getting their fuel done or lined up for second endurance. They wouldn't be that.
I think it's fuel done. I see the distinctive yellow suits.
Griffith there, a 148.6. Griffith are now ahead of, well, truly ahead of RMIT. And
6th fastest time of the day.
6th fast, and Melbourne, who have put in a faster lap time, a 148.5, only 0.15 seconds off the team that was setting the pace in autocross early on.
There's clearly still time in the car. It's still dropping, so it's going to be very exciting to see where they finish. Looking at the Griffith car, I think they've got one more lap with this driver.
Oh, this is unbelievable. I don't know what this guy does, what he eats for breakfast, but this is one heck of a driver. And you just sort of think, if this is their best driver, you sort of hope that they've got a second one. If it's not their best driver, then I wonder what's coming.
We should all be very afraid. Adelaide coming through, screaming on through with a 158.6. It is definitely, it's one of the loudest cars we've heard all day. Not that it's a bad sound. So in the pits right now, it looks like we have Missouri doing a driver change and the ADFA car waiting to go out on track. I was wondering, they were listed on the endurance order as starting before a couple of the cars out on track.
Well, it's great to see Adelaide back out there. I know they had a problem with their engine leading up to comp. They run the R6 as well as Queensland. Both of those teams losing engines just before the competition started. So to see them out there running is great. Of course, Queensland weren't able to get out there for their second half of their run. Hopefully they will be able to a bit later on.
And the University of Queensland obviously blowing a motor a couple of weeks back too. And that is Utah's coming through with a 205.8.
And Griffith, let's see this Griffith time. Finishing that first one, a 146.6. Now let's put this in perspective. That is the 3rd fastest lap time of this endurance run. The only 2 cars faster than that Griffith lap have been Monash and Canterbury. They have gone faster than Wollongong, Queensland, Curtin, Melbourne, RMIT Electric, Missouri, Auckland, Adelaide, Edith, Cowan University, Waikato, Newcastle, Sydney and Tasmania. What an effort. That's an amazing lap.
We're probably going to have to get someone from Griffith to come up and have a chat to us at some point.
Yeah, come on. Somebody from Griffith, the fella there in the straw hat who's been yelling out, who said it was...
Yeah, look, we're right behind you.
Yeah, okay. What are you feeling after seeing that?
I'm just wrapped for the boys. They've worked really hard for this, and this is what they deserve.
Oh, it's a fantastic effort. So, was that your best driver that we were seeing there, or are we going to see a bit more fireworks?
Well, we've got a couple of good steerers, but yeah, Jace is definitely good in the buggy, and I'm looking forward to jumping in this afternoon and having a crack as well.
Oh, fantastic. I mean, a lot of these teams are using old cars to do their training. You obviously don't have an old car to do your training. You mentioned a buggy. What's that about?
That's our buggy out there.
So how long has this car been running?
Well, Oakley was our first real day in the car, just a couple of days before comp.
Okay, look, I think both Isaac and I are here, who both with teams that have had hundreds of kilometres testing, whose cars, one's beached out there and one's sitting back in the workshop with traction not working and I think oil coming out. And you're telling me that the first time you got this car running properly was out in Oakley, and you've just gone and set the third fastest time.
I suppose that's what happens when you pick a simple design and you just work hard at it back in the workshop. And luckily everything's just sort of worked out for us, but we've definitely had a fair share of dramas over the last couple of days. Being a first-year team, we're just working out the kinks.
Oh, well, you've just crushed my spirits, I think. This is
Mine too.
So you're the fellow that was crying out that it was delightful seeing the car around there. This is outgoing live, and maybe a few people back in Griffiths. Have you got anything to say to any of the people back home that might be catching this on YouTube?
Yep. Come out and support us next year, join the team, and we can win.
Oh, fantastic. Well done, guys, and let's hope you get back out there and we see a great endurance run.
Thanks, mate. Look, it can only go up from here, so, I mean, the more guys we get behind this Griffiths program, get the uni behind it, and hopefully it's just bigger and better things from here on in.
Well, you'd think with what you guys have done, the uni should be right behind you. Well done, guys.
It looks like, unfortunately, we have a car stopped on track down at the back end. Looking at the cars that I can see, I think it may be Adelaide that have unfortunately stopped on track.
Okay, now Griffith here have restarted. They are in line to go back out, so that dreaded restart, they've overcome that. I think that's probably almost harder than putting in a good lap time first time out, is just getting that first restart.
You're talking to a team that is very familiar with starting issues. Yeah, so, I mean, the amazing thing about that Griffith car is they don't have carbon fibre wheels, they don't have fancy hydraulic interconnected suspension, and they are still the third fastest car from today.
Oh, there's no aero package on it. They're beating cars with good aero packages.
Space frame, simple four-banger. I think it was cold flute body panels, which is just amazing.
A real focus on taking weight out where it counts, and it looks like we've got a car that's...
Adelaide is still stopped on track. I think it is Adelaide because I haven't seen them come around. Still yellows being shown in that section. Unfortunately, holding up UTAS and Missouri on the way around. I don't know if that's factored into the decision not to release Griffith or not, because they are posting stunning times. You don't want to be held up by any flags down there.
Well, absolutely. I think one of the things that happens in these competitions is after the competition is finished, a lot of the teams sort of go to exchange shirts and so on. It's always great to catch up at the end. I just reckon those Griffith shirts have probably become about the hottest property here.
Yeah, I'm taking one. If any of the Griffith team are listening, I've got some good Auckland shirts I'd like to swap. None of them are listening. I'll have to go track them down after. But it looks like we've cleared the Adelaide car off track. Unfortunately, the third car to be beached today. But we have a clean track again, full green. I think we can expect to see Griffith released after the Missouri car comes through.
Oh, I'm lost for words with that performance from Griffith. It was just great. It wasn't that it was just one lap time. It was really consistent. And not only have they put in the third fastest lap time, they're probably sitting, maybe third fastest overall in endurance time at the moment.
Yeah, just imagine if they'd had more testing time before competition. They obviously went into autocross with not much time at all, a little bit more track time, and they could have been one of the top teams in autocross too.
Oh, it's amazing to think of what they've done.
And here they come out. Big clap from people up on the hill.
What a solid little car.
Lost for words. Our two cars not working great, and this thing just running the best times of the day, basically.
I know, and I think sometimes when you're approaching this as a design problem, you get carried away and you're chasing things that you know are worth more performance, and in the process you just miss some of those, some of the basic things that it is capable to win this competition and do top-level competitiveness with a really simple solution.
And it looks like we have the ADFA car out on track. Now, I'm obviously not Australian, but I think that's the Australian Defence Force Academy car from New South Wales.
University of New South Wales. I think ADFA itself is in Canberra. I might be wrong there.
Is that
Probably
a state?
wrong there.
Is it a city?
Canberra is sort of a place where we put our politicians.
Oh, that ACT thing.
ACT, I don't know. You probably, again, I'm probably right to be connected. I'm further away from this than you are.
Missing the first gate, unfortunately. But, you know, he'll pick it up very quick. Won't make the same mistake again.
Now, I had a bit of a chat to one of their designers. I think it was a young girl called Michelle who designed the steering system. Absolutely fantastic job. I can't recommend enough that people go down and see what new ADFA have done with their steering. There's virtually no slop in it. It's a very inventive solution to the problem of getting around the legs in that driver area. They've ended up with a really good system there, really knowing their stuff. And I think if that's the sort of quality of their team, it's no surprise that they're known as one of the sort of innovative teams out here.
And Missouri coming through with a 151.9.
Sounds like business as usual for Missouri. They just get in there doing the lap times.
Consistently knocking them out at around that time, 11 laps down.
Look at this Griffith car. This is the story at the moment. This car here.
Now
a 156.8. First time out, first lap for this driver. That's incredible.
That is incredible. That's one of the lowest times on an outlap we've had so far.
Well, we'll put this in perspective. The early lap times from the Monash drivers, I think one of them had an early lap time that was a 2. Something very high.
That's possible. There's been a lot of cars now, and it's very hot. I'm losing my memory.
Well, I think that's just as fast as cars were doing first
lap.
lap.
ADFA coming through on their first lap with a 157.9. Now, they did miss a gate at one point, but that's still an incredibly quick time.
Now, I've got the Griffith driver here. I'm gonna go down and give him a bit of an interview. Look, we're all amazed here at what you guys are doing. That was an incredible display of driving, and I think the biggest question on everyone's lips is, what did you eat for breakfast this morning?
Nothing. It's weight.
Oh, just weight. Take the weight out. What does your car weigh?
246 kilos.
A 246 kilo first year car going out there and doing those sort of lap times. That's amazing. So did you expect that you'd come here and put in a time that's got other people wishing they were with you?
That was the plan.
Have you done any driving before this, or is this the first sort of competitive driving you've done?
Mostly just drifting.
Drifting? That's not racing. So what do you drift?
A86.
A86. That's fantastic. And did you find that you were able to do a bit of drifting out there, or just had to take a really tight line?
No, I felt it was a bit quicker putting the back in first.
Oh, the back end first. You've definitely got to get around those cones pretty quick, especially around the hairpins. Were the tyres heading up out there? Was it a pretty grippy track?
Yeah, it's pretty grippy. The car's just a bit slow to respond and a big flat spot in the engine.
Okay, so what are the big changes that you'd probably want to make now just to take out those last two that you didn't beat this time?
There's plenty of things we can do. We can save about 60 kilos.
Oh, well done. I think from what I've seen from you guys, it's an amazing job. Are you finished now, or are you in here for another year?
No, I just graduated.
Oh, well done, and the best in the future. And thanks for entertaining all of us.
Thank you. Cheers.
And that was Griffith coming through with a 150.0. Very quickly dropping the times. We're going to see similar times from the second driver. That's probably going to place Griffith quite high in this endurance.
Oh, yeah, that's unbelievable sort of times.
Probably a lot higher than they expected.
I think it's a lot higher than anybody expected them to do.
Well, but here's ADFA coming through as well with a 151.2 on their second lap. This could be another very quick team.
Oh, look at it go. That's a great little car there with ADFA. Just hanging the back end around. And as we've been told from the drift racer, from Griffith, that's the way to drive around here. Put the back end in first.
ADFA driver nearly made the same mistake as they did the first lap, but he corrected, made it around the cone. Saving himself a cool 20 seconds there.
I think, unfortunately, the ADFA driver just went the wrong way on the passing lane.
Hopefully they'll be a bit lenient on that, but I doubt it. Tasmania coming through with a 159.9. consistently fast from them too. Oh, Missouri getting a little sideways as they come towards the end of the lap.
Oh, this Missouri team has shown their experience. They've come out here, run all of these events, very steady, haven't missed a time on all of the boards. And they're 1 lap away from finishing an endurance in, I think 2 laps away from finishing endurance in Australia, 1:52.59. Incredibly consistent from them. I think they were a top 5 finisher in Lincoln this year. And I think that shows just how competitive this Australian competition is. So the Missouri car, which had finished top 5 in Lincoln, is currently running lap times slower than Monash, Canterbury, Griffith, Wollongong, Queensland, Curtin, Melbourne and RMIT Electric. It just shows that what we've got here in this little competition is world class. Missouri will finish quite high in the rankings if they finish this endurance. A lot of those teams didn't finish.
It's getting more competitive year on year too. It's very exciting to see for the competition. And just an update on Griffith coming through on that last lap with a 1:51.7, quicker than their previous lap again.
Well, I really hope they've enjoyed their trip over here. I know the international teams, we try hard to accommodate them and welcome them to our country. And I guess we consider the New Zealand teams to just sort of be one of us. And we don't go out of our way to welcome you guys too much. We're too busy trying to beat you. But for everyone else, we're really quite happy when they're doing well.
I'm not going to say anything about that.
Isaac's silent there.
We found the hospitality here quite nice. Staying at a stunning motel right now. And the University of Tasmania coming in for the end of their endurance. So congratulations to them.
Well done, Tasmania.
And it looks like Missouri's probably got 1 lap left. The completion of their penultimate lap, bringing them a lap time of 1:51.5.
So they haven't been able to duck into the 40s. They've got one more chance to do it on this session, but they should have a couple of quicker drivers for the finish. And now we have, I think, James Cook University.
It is James Cook University.
Haven't done a lot of running in this competition, but let's look at this Griffith time.
Dropping 5/10 off the previous lap, sitting a 1:50.2.
So I'm predicting this fellow will get under the 150 mark as well.
I'd be amazed if he didn't.
Well, I guess for these guys, if they're finished, it's all going to come down to bragging rights. Who's the better driver?
Adfa coming through to complete their 4th lap with a 1:49.27.
Oh, that's great pace from Adfa there.
Sub 150s.
We're not always lucky enough to have Adfa at this competition. They're here some years, not here other years. It's always good when they are. They bring something that's really interesting. They were one of the first teams to go with a beam car. And since they went with a beam rear end, we now have Auckland, ECU and Queensland all running beams as well.
Well, it's not looking good for the beam teams today then. Hopefully Adfa can break that trend.
Yeah, we've got 3 beam teams out at the moment.
Pretty sure that's not the point of failure, but we'll have to wait and see. And I think that's the University of South Australia lined up to exit the pits. They might... Ooh, I don't think they'll get a gap between Missouri and UTAS, who have been caught very quickly by James Cook University. In fact, there are currently 4 cars on track. It's going to be interesting to see if they do release South Australia.
No, I think what we saw there was Griffiths had passed James
sorry,
Cook.
it is. It is, in fact, Griffith passing James Cook.
So there you go. Griffith has passed James Cook on track. I used to drive these cars in competition. It's great to go past someone. And Missouri finishing their endurance a 1:51.19. Great job from the team.
Again, another one of those teams that seem to have remarkably consistent lap times. They might not be the quickest, but they were definitely consistent. Here we go. Griffith coming through for another lap. A 1:55.04. Now, they did pass James Cook on that lap.
Yeah, you do get held up a bit on the passing, but it does feel fantastic to fly past one of your competitors. And certainly when you see another team going past you, it's not a nice feeling.
With only 3 cars on track now, we should see South Australia released in a little bit once there's a gap to Adfa.
And we see that first lap time from James Cook was a 2:18.9. And Adfa there with a 1:50.31. So really good times there from Adfa. And they're going to be on James Cook. They'll probably get past them in this next passing lane. So if you're from Adfa, give a cheer as you're going past.
James Cook has been blue flagged, and Adfa is passing them in the passing lane now.
There you go, Adfa.
And South Australia is out on track. Another blue car. There seem to be a lot of blue cars at competition this year.
Well, there's probably a couple of blue commentators at the moment.
Feeling a little down. Have to wait a couple of hours before the second endurance. Have to wait a couple of hours to even get our car back.
Remember, it is quite a hot day today, so if you're out there, make sure you got sunscreen on and keep hydrated. And if a couple of people want to bring a couple of bottles of water up to the struggling commentators, that'd be well appreciated.
Thanks, Auckland.
Auckland, fantastically welcoming team. They're staying next to the ECU team, and they invited us round for a barbecue the other night. Very welcoming and sharing stories of hijinks at universities.
Turns out you don't need 10 kilos of meat to feed 30 people, so we were happy to have them over for a barbecue. Griffith Racing coming through again with a 1:49.9.
There you go, another Griffiths driver under the 150 with a 1:49.9, hitting a cone there, but really good lap times from Griffith yet again.
If we do this for the second endurance, we might have to get a team to bring us an easy up the hill. Or maybe move backwards a little bit. Adfa coming through on another lap, setting a 1:51.1. I think they're going to make it down below 150.
Yeah, I think so. Once again, Griffith is the pace out there.
Ooh, getting a bit gusty up on the hill. It's going to be interesting for the winged cars to see how that affects them if it sticks around for long. Getting very gusty.
I don't think we've got any wing cars out there.
James Cook coming through with a 2:19. I can't read it because of the dust.
Oh no! What's we got a car? We got a car stationary.
Oh yes, the Alpha car is stationary, and James Cook, ooh, just tightening it around, making it around. I think we're going to see the University of South Australia held up too. Adfa trying to start. I really hope they can get it going. They were posting some consistently good lap times. I can't hear it revving, and they are underway again.
Oh, well done, Adfa. Those are those moments when your cars stop out on track that you even stop thinking about the lap times.
Hard stopping for everyone.
And you just start thinking about, finishing, restarting. I know it's when the ECU team went to UK, it was a very similar situation. The car was putting in very impressive lap times and stopped right on the last lap, about 100 metres from finishing.
Oh, that's disappointing
and,
to hear.
Managed to get it restarted after some time and finish the endurance, but you're just happy at that stage just across the line.
As we said, finishing is the really important part of endurance. Griffith coming through with another lap, a 1:47.4.
Whoa, their fastest lap time was a 1:46.6, so it looks like the fella that's driving with the drift cars might not be matching that pace.
And that is Griffith with a completed endurance. Congratulations.
Well done to Griffith. A big cheer for them. Only 7 people here, and they've just put in one of the best endurance efforts. I reckon that could be close to second place in endurance.
That is incredible. And, well, it's really going to depend on that efficiency, I guess. It's going to be very interesting.
Oh, I don't think they would have used too much. It looked pretty good out there.
Yeah. It looks like Adfa have caught up to James Cook again. And, South Australia getting in the mix too. One of the problems here, I guess, is that it is open wheel racing, but it's not open wheel racing. Rather, you're not meant to be competing against each other. But drivers are drivers.
Had a bit of a problem there.
Oh, it's getting a little close here, but South Australia safely made it through. Bit sideways.
He's driving hard, that South Australia driver. South Australia there with a 1:48.65
on their second lap.
Unbelievable.
We might be seeing an upset here. The track is warming up, of course, so there will be a bit more grip out there. For restarting again.
That was the 8th fastest lap time today.
On the second lap
from South Australia. And South Australia, from the looks of it, looked way out of contention for being the fastest team.
Well, if they were any faster, they'd have started earlier and probably had a higher autocross placing. But it looks, unfortunately, like the Adfa car is being pushed into the pits. Yes, it is. So
It's a real shame.
That is a real shame.
We must be coming pretty close to the end of the runners for endurance. I can't see any cars out there that need to come out.
Oh, there is No, there's
That
a
was
car in the
University
pits.
of Newcastle, wasn't it? Or is
No,
that
I think
RMIT?
it's car number 28. It's Taylor's University in the pits, ready to go out for their first endurance stint.
Oh, there we see UNSW out there now. You spoke a little bit too soon.
I did miss them coming onto track. They've just posted a first lap of 206.5, I think. Yes, 206.5. Seeming like the par for the first out lap for most teams.
Well, if you have a look at this, both the South Australia car and Griffith, they're both what you'd call very traditional Formula SAE cars. You know, quite, probably even weight balance, front rear, 50% weight on the front. 4-cylinder engines, 13-inch tyres, or 10s in the way of Griffith. I'm just trying to get the time up for that one. But you see very conventional cars still putting in really good lap times.
South Australia posting a 150.53. Now that is a little slower than their last lap, but keeping up that pace, they're going to be well up there.
Well, I think if you'd seen one of those cars about 12 years ago in this competition, you would have been picking a car like that to win it. It shows that the top teams have come a long way, but in the process, they've introduced systems that maybe are a little less reliable or pushing the limits on weight a bit. And when you come out here with a good, reliable reliable car, you can put in good times.
I'm going to have to agree with that one, coming from the two people with cars that failed to complete the first endurance.
Yeah, there's not too many cars or there are a few that didn't. Whoever, University of Queensland, Melbourne, Adelaide, Sydney. Yes,
Quite a few.
few teams, but quite a few finishes. I'd say we'd probably see more than half finish.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the stats in front of me, but it does feel like that. It's getting quite hot. My mind is slowly disappearing.
Yeah, well, we might actually move up to some shade, I think.
Well, the first endurance is just about to finish. Might have to hold out for that. With the University of New South Wales Redback Racing coming through with a lap time of 2 minutes, 0.5. Yeah. Okay. And it looks like Taylor's Racing is lining up to exit the pits. They should get a gap after South Australia, probably. Oh, probably after James Cook Racing. South Australia getting very sideways. Oh, unfortunately hitting a cone, but setting a 147.0. The cone is going to hurt them. I heard them cheering in the pit lane. But they clearly have the pace in the car. That is one of the fastest laps of the whole day.
Well, Isaac, I'm up here in the Monash tent up on the top of the hill, sitting in the jacuzzi. Monash, being one of the local teams, are very well set up out here. It's beautiful. I think Scott's about to bring me some champagne. It's very comfortable. Very nice people up here in Monash. No, Scott, I think I ordered the lobster. If you take that steak away. They have the Monash personal chef up here. Really quite good at delicacies. Of course, Melbourne well known for their love of meat. Very good chefs in Melbourne. I think is it Melbourne where they shoot the Master Chef or something like that? Yeah, they pretty much do all television and radio here in Melbourne. It's the home of all culture. Of course, it's too cold. That's why you need the culture.
And we
There's
have
no
Taylor's
culture
Racing.
coming out of Western Australia because you're too busy on the beach.
Taylor's Racing out on track. I'll have the steak that Kevin turned down. So the quickest car on track right now is most definitely the University of South Australia.
Yeah, the last lap from South Australia was a 1:47 flat, their fastest lap time.
Oh, the driver did nick another cone on that lap.
And that was a 1:47.69, so very consistent fast times from South Australia there.
Consistently fast times, just hoping that they're not hitting too many cones during the lap.
UNSW, they're flying the back end around that little hairpin section.
That was the
really
starter.
aggressive.
I was a little worried for them in the concrete wall. So far, we've had no major incidents on track, which is very good.
Yeah, I think as always, there's always a bit of discussion at the start. how the track's laid out, but I think this track is a bit better. It's an improvement on last year. There are no bundles of tyres on the road. It doesn't look like there's any locations where the drivers are in real concern. There's really just probably that concrete wall was probably something that was worrying a few teams, but it turns out it hasn't been too much of a worry at all.
It's probably worse from our angle than it is down on track. They all do seem to be making it through quite comfortably.
And it looks like a cone hit there by UNSW. It's knocked over on the track. It hasn't been picked up by the marshals yet.
That's Taylor's.
Oh, sorry, Taylor's had knocked that cone down. And we still have those cones down there on track.
South Australia have just been waived by the University of New South Wales, but they... Oh, there he's taken it now. That was an interesting pass. Taylor's Racing coming round to complete their first lap. Setting a time of 2 minutes 25.9 on their outlap. It's going to be interesting to see the South Australian time. Now, they did get held up a little during the pass, but they have set a 1 minute 48.1.
Well, I'm interested to see whether UNSW can pick up. Usually when you drop in behind a car, as much as you don't like it, sometimes you can make spot a few places where you can improve. And maybe I would expect that UNSW times might increase. The best time from UNSW is a 1:57, whereas South Australia's best is a 1:47. So let's see what New South Wales are able to do now that they're following a faster car.
Yes, now we mentioned dark horses earlier. Between Griffith and South Australia, there are a couple of mid-pack teams that are really bringing it to the front runners. South Australia posting the 4th fastest time of the day, Griffith posting the 3rd fastest time of the day.
Oh, that's unbelievable.
Look at that, beating out Queensland, Curtin, Melbourne, Adfa, Rimmet, us, you.
Yeah, well, I think the big one is Wollongong. We've got Griffith and South Australia with faster lap times than Wollongong, and at one stage, Wollongong was winning autocross.
And James Cook University has come in for their driver change. Whoa.
You can see the UNSW cars keeping up a bit closer to South Australia. South Australia is obviously pulling away, but I'd expect that this time from UNSW might be a little bit quicker than their previous ones. Oh, I spoke too early. Yeah. South Australia have stalled at the hairpin. UNSW will duck around that.
Yes, they have safely made it around, although they
in
are
the
going
process,
a little slow
I think
themselves.
they collected a cone.
They have collected a cone, and
he's just going to need to keep...
He's asking a marshal to clear it from the front right suspension, it would seem, but they are not allowed to. He'll have to return to the pits, I think.
That's really frustrating because I think he had that cone because he was avoiding South Australia.
Unfortunately, it looks like they have a couple of laps left before they can comfortably come into the pits. They have made it in, though, and Taylors have successfully avoided the beached South Australian car.
Oh, that's a real shame for South Australia. They were running pretty quick and consistent.
Unfortunately, they do not seem to be able to restart the car. It would be interesting to hear what happened to them. Taylor's Racing coming around to complete their second lap. Their previous a 2:25.9, this lap a 2:48.0.
I'm getting a warning that my phone battery is down to 20% and my body battery is down to about 10%.
Yes, my laptop battery it's not even giving me a number. 15%. Looks like this endurance might be wrapping up at just the right time.
Well, of course, we timed the endurance based on an iPhone 4 battery. In the life of an iPhone 4 battery, watching the NatSoft website. If you are after the times, they are posted live to NatSoft. So that's www.natsoft.com.au. If you go to the circuit racing section and select the Formula SAE event, it's about 3 down from the top. And if you click on the link for live.
I have just pulled out my second timing device, so don't worry, we will not lose the live timing today.
Now, if you are watching this live through RMI TV, you'll know that we are broadcasting this live through RMI TV. It's also be available on YouTube later. Those guys have worked very hard. In pit lane. I think RMI TV is the film crew.
That does sound about right. Happy to be corrected, though. So it does look like, unfortunately, the South Australian car has been pulled off track, but the track is now at least clear. 2 cars on track right now, the University of New South Wales and Taylor's Racing. It looks like James Cook are lined up to be released again after their driver change.
Yeah, we are coming towards the end of this endurance run now. And all of the teams will be in the pits preparing for their next run out.
And James Cook Racing is back on track. So the day has definitely gotten a little warmer. The track will be up to temperature, which is quite good for some of the slow teams trying to post some faster times. But it's really going to bring the speed up for the cars in the second endurance.
Yeah, well, I would say that some of the times we're seeing from Griffiths in South Australia are almost certainly due to the track getting a lot faster, so the track having cleaned up. The wind can affect things. You can get a lot of dust blown over, but usually the rubbered up track increases your performance in that second run.
Yes, now we are on top of the hill, of course, so the wind is probably worse for us up here. Taylor's Racing coming through with a 2:38 and New South Wales coming through with a 1:51.6.
Yeah, we see that was their fastest time from UNSW. I think that time spent behind South Australia has probably shown them a few different lines they could have taken and where to push it a bit more.
Yes, it probably is quite helpful to look at the way the other teams are taking some of these corners.
You can really see he improved in some of the sections. So that hairpin, he was cutting that quite tight before, and now he's letting the car go out wide and holding a bit more speed.
They have caught up to Taylor's Racing, and I expect in a couple of seconds, yes, Taylor's Racing have been blue flagged, and the University of New South Wales should scoot on past and continue with their lap. Yes, there they are, they've gone past. Now, on the subject of the wind, a lot of the teams here have some quite big wings and quite a lot of end plate. Could be quite interesting in the second endurance if the wind picks up anymore.
Yeah, we have run in pretty windy conditions before. Often at Werribee you'd have fairly windy conditions and the big wing cars, and there's a lot of talk about whether it makes a big difference, and I haven't really seen it in the wing cars. It doesn't seem to make too much of a difference what the wind is doing. Of course, you're using whatever that wind is. It might feel like it's blowing fairly hard, but you're looking at what is the wind speed going over the wings. So if the car's moving quite a bit faster than the wind speed, that's the direction that's going to make the most difference.
Now, I haven't heard anything from the pits, but I'm very excited to say I've just seen the the UTS car rolled out into the pits, the electric team.
Oh, that's unbelievable. I don't think I've seen the UTS car run yet this weekend.
No, we're in the pits with them, and I know they've been having some problems throughout the weekend passing scrutineering, but they have, and it's going to be very exciting for them to get a car out in endurance.
James Cook crossing in 2:29.14. UNSW coming around to complete their lap in 1:55.9. So a little bit slower than last lap. In fact, about 4 seconds slower.
They were perhaps held up when they passed Taylor's Racing on track. In this lap, it looks like they might catch up to James Cook University.
And you can just see the pace difference between UNSW and Taylor's.
Getting squirrely coming out of the hairpin, but manages to catch it before the wall.
Well, UNSW has been one of these teams that's been in the competition since the very beginning. Their first car was in the year 2000. There were only, I think, 8 cars in that competition. In the early days, UNSW was considered one of the fastest teams. I remember seeing in 2002, after setting the fastest time, the fastest single lap time on the endurance track, they lost a wheel. But they were always a very fast team, and always been sitting wondering when they're going to come back and be one of the top level competitors again.
The infamous Redback Racing. I think they're known for having quite simple and light cars, and they've definitely brought one this year, a little heavier than us, but coming in at, I think, 170.
Oh, that's impressive. And they pioneered the folded chassis in Australian comp. A few teams around the world have started to adopt that, but UNSW were the first that I'm aware of that were using that technology, and that's been in Australia for a long time, I think since 2002. And they stuck with it. You'll see that they've got a few unique solutions to their car. It's quite a small car and quite a simple car.
So of the teams that were supposed to run endurance earlier than this, the ones that have unfortunately missed their spot, Tokyo Denki University missing, unfortunately. And other than that, the bulk of the teams have run. I have yet to see RMIT Petrol on track or in the pits, unfortunately. And that is Taylor's Racing coming in, completing the first half of their endurance.
Yes, I believe so.
I have them at only 4 laps, but perhaps they have completed more than that. James Cook Racing, unfortunately hitting a cone coming over the timing line, but it is not stuck under them, and they will continue their lap. New South Wales hitting a 1:49.3 last lap round.
Yeah, very, very quick from UNSW there.
Sorry, that was UNSW that came in for the driver swap, not Taylor's Racing.
I thought you said, Isaac, you weren't going to make any mistakes doing this.
It's really hot. It's been a long time. Mistake wasn't quite cooked right.
That's okay. I'll wait for Waikato to come out again.
Oh, playing with fire there. I am looking forward to lunch. Interesting to see what Monash have brought us.
I don't believe you can still eat after that steak you just polished off.
Your lobster hasn't come out yet. Might have a bite of that.
Yeah, I am curious where this lobster is. I'm waiting for it. The Monash guys are obviously holding off.
They've gone out to catch it for you fresh.
Can you get fresh seafood in Melbourne? I didn't realise that. In Western Australia, we, of course, have plenty of fresh seafood, but refrigeration hasn't reached Western Australia yet, so we have to catch it every day.
I'm still not sure what state I'm in, so no comment there. Is Melbourne a state?
Yeah, Melbourne's a city, but of course in Western Australia we've just got the television now. So I actually was lucky enough to be one of the front runners. Got myself I think it was a 20 centimetre.
Black and white?
Oh, of course, both colours.
Analog knobs?
Yeah, fantastic. It came with both colours. My neighbour's only got one of the televisions that come with the colour black. It's a lot less interesting to watch, frankly.
That just feels like a really expensive radio to me.
Oh, I think he must have been pulling one over on me. So I think next year, we're pretty keen to get lighting in the house as well.
I think I'm hearing an engine start in the pits, and yes, New South Wales is away from their driver change.
Oh, well done for UNSW there.
The heart will have jumped out of their throat now that the car has started again.
And we have James Cook coming to complete another lap.
Sitting
with
a
155.08. It doesn't look like it's a 155, but obviously going very smooth and pulling the time from somewhere.
That is substantially quicker than their previous lap. I think 35 seconds quicker than their previous lap.
Yeah, that was their fastest lap so far. And UNSWA, well done for UNSW getting out after the driver change. They have set some good laps. UNSW's fastest lap was the last one before they came in at 1:49.35. So of course we were talking yesterday about some of the Missouri fellas were saying that one of the best things about the US is not all the animals are trying to kill you. And you fellas came over here and were sort of dancing around a redback or something. What was going on there?
I was standing in the pits, and I think our chief engineer had something crawling across his shoe. So he kicked it to the side, and the 3 or 4 people around him went, "Oh my God," and he just stomped on that thing quick.
Oh, we found it quite humorous. As the story went, they said, we believe we saw a redback. And I thought, well, I'm pretty sure you did see a redback. They're not that uncommon. It's
so
not like trying to
terrifying.
look for a platypus around Australia.
Everything here seems to try and kill you. And that was Taylor's Racing coming through again with a 235.3. No, we yet to see any snakes or any other spiders. No, we did see a fairly big, do you call them huntsmen over here? Very big spider in our pits on day one, but nothing since.
So what is the reaction of somebody that's come over from New Zealand, where the most dangerous animal is a kiwi bird? When you see a huntsman on your roll or something like that you're about to eat for breakfast, what's your reaction to that?
Yes, my voice can get very high-pitched when I see a spider. I'm not ashamed to admit that. No, the spiders aren't the worst. It's really the snakes over here. Oh, dear, and James Cook
collecting cones there. They did cross with a... We'll get their time. If we actually got their time, they need to pass the beam. It doesn't look like that's updated.
I think they may have grabbed a cone just on the way past and it has blocked the beam. That's how transponders work, right?
I'm not entirely sure. I think it's all electrical magic.
I'm a mechanical person. I'm so confused.
I think they send out psychic waves. If you aren't aware, the people from Timetronics in the timing tent are psychic. Most of these times are not coming from electronics at all. They're coming from psychic waves.
I'm very excited to say that UTS appear to be lined up, the electric vehicle, and ready to go when they get a free gap. Now, of course, you won't hear them pull away, but this is very exciting.
Well, if their tyres are spinning, you might hear something, but otherwise it will be the quiet electric car. And nearly got run over in the pits today. There's somebody driving around in a Tesla. We didn't hear it at all, and all of a sudden I'm being rushed aside for the Tesla to come through. I'm just grateful as they were heading towards us, they weren't doing that 0 to 100 in 4 seconds that car's capable of. Otherwise, I would have been 0 to the wall in 4 seconds.
Now I have just lost my timing. My laptop has run out of battery.
Well, UNSW there, for whatever reason, the last lap is recording as a 2:51.6, so something happened in that last lap. Hopefully that's nothing serious and they can continue.
But yes, I have my timing back. I believe that, yes, that was a slow time.
Yeah, you can see it's just hasn't got the pace that it had before.
So now they'll be trying to just nurse it to the end, get the car to complete an endurance.
Taylor's University coming around, should be coming in for the driver change.
Yes, regardless of the times teams are setting, they'll be very, very happy to finish an endurance. In fact, this might be one of the higher completion rates at this point.
Yeah, I think completion rates are very good at this stage.
Most of the cars that didn't finish are beached on track.
Well, one thing to keep in mind if you are watching this internationally is this is a very small competition. There aren't very many teams, and sometimes when you watch a Formula student in Germany or the UK and you see 100 teams there with 30 incredibly fast cars, it's still actually quite a small percentage. It's the same sort of percentage we see here. So that some of these back runners, you still see huge numbers of back runners in the big competitions as well. As it's probably not televised as much or not discussed as much on forums and social media.
And UTS are out on track. The big cheer and clapping from the hill.
It's a beautiful looking car.
Oh, and they're looking quick already. It's going to be very interesting to see what, oh dear, though, James Cook University has spun on track. And they are on just off the racing. Oh, no, they are on the racing line. And yellow flags are ready.
Yeah, UTS car does look like it's pretty smooth. UTS used to come along to this competition with a 4-cylinder engine, and you don't get too much of a bigger change than that, going from the big 4-cylinder engines down to an electric car.
Well, with the power of some of these electric cars, hopefully that's not too different.
No, the only electric one I've driven was one of the early Swinburne electric cars, and it was a very heavy car, but it accelerated very hard. It was a very
University of
powerful
New South Wales coming through. What's their lap time? Oh dear, the car has turned off on track.
That lap time was a 2:25, so they're obviously having car difficulties through the last couple of laps. We've seen them slow, and now it's.
Can hear the starter
like
going, I think, from up here, but not looking like much like now.
It's not a great place for the marshals to try and recover it. There aren't marshals on that side near the concrete barriers.
No, unfortunately, the car does not appear to be restarting. So I was talking to the UTS people the other day, though. They sound like they have a 60 kilowatt single electric motor at the rear. Someone will probably correct me quite quickly if that's wrong, but that's a lot of power for any SAE car.
Yeah, well, from what I understand, the issue is not so much with the motors. So most of the motors are capable of fairly high power. It's all down to the controller and how much you're able to feed through from the batteries effectively. Of course, my knowledge of electrical systems is pretty low.
Black magic.
We do have floating around somewhere in here, the pits near Monash. There's a couple of fellas from AMZ. They're one of the absolute front-running teams in Europe. They produce a beautiful, beautiful car.
Oh, and it looks like the New South Wales car has managed to restart, but only after being pushed off track. I think they'll let the UTS electric car through before doing anything about that. Yellow's still being waved at this part of the track. UTS coming through for their first lap. I'm actually not seeing any... Oh, yes, a 2-minute 18. Obviously, with some issues to avoid on the lap.
Yeah, obviously, yellow flags for quite a bit of the lap there. And we're seeing here that these teams really just trying to finish, get a time on the board, and maybe come back next year a little bit quicker. Isaac is rushing off for a pit stop. So we have University of Queensland electric car is lined up to come out. James Cook on that last lap was a 3:16.6, but that was obviously a slow down with all those yellow flags. And we have Taylors back out from their driver change. Restart. Well done to Taylors. We heard the cheer from their team as that car restarted. And it looks like the UNSW car is being pulled out of the competition. That's a real shame. They were on their second driver. They'd already done the driver change. Their car was looking like had done some quick lap times. UNSW had put in a 1:49.3, which had put them fairly high up in terms of pace. They'll be incredibly disappointed. It's usually once you get past that driver change, it's not uncommon to finish the event there. Two cones hit there by UTS, and that was a 2:08.03. So not too bad. We should probably see this car carve that time as the laps go on. So three cars out on track at the moment. We have UTS, Taylors, and James Cook University. James Cook probably coming in to complete their endurance in this lap. It's either this lap or one more to go. We will find out very soon. Very reliable finish here. And yes, they are getting the checkered flag. This is James Cook University finishing their endurance run. Well done, James Cook. That's a huge achievement. And the Queensland electric car is out on track. So we have two electric cars out on track, as well as Taylor's. And it looks like Isaac is returning from the Monash massage room. Reinvigorated. They really look after you up here in the Monash tent. So you're looking a lot more relaxed there, Isaac.
I certainly am. This is the most relieved I've felt all day.
Well, they do have a massage course in Monash, well known for their great engineering prowess, one of the best engineering universities in Australia. But little known, they do have a massage part of the university as well, advanced massage. And with their electives, some of the team members from Monash take that up. Massage 101.
Yeah, as with any university, it's kind of considered to be a bum subject, but a lot of them are taking it. They're very good.
Yeah, it's amazing how skilled they are. And that's just the sort of full package team that Monash are.
Sydney coming through with a 2.08, their quickest lap so far. So I am sad to say I've seen the UQ electric vehicle pushed back into the pit lane. Hopefully they get that running again though.
Yeah, and one of the things with the late cars out running is...
Oh wait, I'm
UQ,
entirely wrong.
UQ is there.
They're on track. I missed that entirely.
Well, one of the things with these late runners is it does delay the end of this competition. They are running out of order. And some of the teams with cars beached out there that are desperate to get those cars back and work on them and hopefully get them back out for endurance can be quite frustrating.
Who could you possibly be referring to? Yeah, I mean, Auckland are definitely looking forward to getting the car back. We don't know what damage there is, if any damage, other than a little bit our driver reported. So it's going to be really good to get the car back, give it a good look over before going out for that second endurance. And, of course, beating ECU.
Yeah, well, at this stage, if neither of us finish, I think ECU comes out of the top, but neither of us are going to be happy.
No, that will be a hollow victory. Oh dear, bodywork coming off of the... Well, I can't even tell what car it is now without the bodywork. I think it is Taylor's Racing have unfortunately lost their nose cone and side pods.
Where did they come off?
Well, there are cones knocked over at the timing line, and well, I can't see the bodywork. I imagine that will be a mechanical black flag for loss of bodywork.
Yeah, I
think Marshall on track.
The cars do need to have covers on them to protect any egress of objects into the driver area. So that's almost certainly a mechanical black flag for them. Hopefully they can sort out all the mounts for that for the second time around.
It didn't look like there was particularly any damage to the bodywork, which is lucky for them. Those poor cones, though.
I don't think I've ever seen that. I've been at Formula SAE competitions for a long time, and I don't think I've ever seen a nose cone come off during a race.
Are you allowed to cable tie the bodywork to the car?
Yeah, cable tie, tape, whatever. I think any time these cars go out to endurance, I think all the race tape in the pits go on them.
We need a fancy name for cable ties. They don't sound anywhere near exciting enough.
There's something magic about cable ties. Yeah,
stronger than they look.
Yeah, stronger than they look, but they always seem to bite back. An incorrectly cut cable tie. It's got a few scars from that.
UQ Electric making their way around the back of the course.
Doesn't seem to be going too quickly.
All on that straight though.
Their first lap was a 2:43.04.
Good to see they've made it out though for this endurance.
And what you're seeing if you're watching this on the live stream and you're not used to seeing Formula SAE cars, if you have a look at the front end of Taylor's car, you'll see a bit of blue foam stuck on, and that's what we call an impact attenuator. So the impact attenuator is a device to absorb energy if you were to hit a wall or hit some other vehicle, and it's one of the things that teams must submit a report on or run a standard impact attenuator. Of course, one of our team members, who happens to be a New Zealander, refers to it as the impact continuator, and managed to spell it with an I instead of on the design board, and had it as an attenuator. So it was even spelt with a New Zealand accent.
Well, he is from Taupo, so I don't mean to bag on Taupo. I'm sure it's a lovely place. And Taylors have come into the pits, unfortunately.
Yeah, so they will have a look at that car. Now, they do have the bodywork. It looks like they're going to let them put that bodywork back on. Now, Rob Chadwick is very keen to see these cars run as much as possible, so we'll see what happens here.
He's a kind and fair fellow. Hopefully he'll let them out again. UQ Racing have appeared to have stopped on track, unfortunately.
No, it looks like they're calling for the push bar, Taylors, and UQ have stopped that on track, so both disappointing outcomes for both of those teams.
That does leave the UTS electric vehicle running the track.
The last lap time from that UTS electric vehicle was a 2:03.35.
They're bringing it down quite quickly. My understanding is this is their first electric car. They've had their ups and downs throughout the year and obviously throughout the weekend too, because I believe this is the first event they've made it out for. But it is looking very quick on track, really.
We have a number of electric teams now. We have UWA is developing an electric car. I don't know if we've ever seen it run at this competition. UTS, we have Queensland, RMIT. Swinburne aren't here, unfortunately. They normally have an electric car. And there's rumours around that one of the top-level teams might be producing an electric car in the future. I'll leave you to guess who that might be. But it'll be very interesting. It looks like we're reaching a bit of a critical mass of electric cars in this competition.
Yes, if we look towards the European competition, you'll see a lot of the top teams there are running electric. A lot of them have very complex four-wheel drive, in-hub electric, torque vectoring, traction control, launch control. Yeah, the four-wheel drive electric is really seeming like a way to go for the competition, obviously with the higher power output limit too of 80 kilowatt.
That's UTS there with a 2:01.7, so another 2 seconds down on that lap. They've completed 6 laps now, so they should be coming into the driver change after this lap. We're used to seeing a few more laps on this. I think last year the lap times were about 75 seconds or around that sort of mark. I can't remember what it was for endurance, but that was certainly the winning autocross time. So we're running a good 30 seconds longer per lap here.
Now the lap is a little longer, my understanding being it's closer to 1.5 kilometres than the 1.15 it was last year. If you do a direct ratio there, that's about the time that we're running.
The cars are intended endurance not to exceed an average speed of 60 kilometres an hour. I think the range that they're looking for is between 50 and 60 kilometres an hour, and it's difficult to design these tracks to meet that. So on a course like this, one of the difficulties in the rules is that you need no more than 60 metres between a change of directions out on track. And obviously on a track like Calder, you want a lot more than 60 metres between corners for the much larger cars. So trying to set out a track that meets that is a difficult challenge. But it looks like they've done a good job. It looks like the average speeds are within what we'd expect from the rules. Australia is known as being maybe a little bit slower in their tracks than what we see in Europe and the US. In a lot of the cases with the US and European tracks, we see very high average speeds and probably outside of what is mandated by the rule book. It's a constant chase between the organisers and the people setting the tracks and the students building the cars, and often the cars are far faster than expected at some of those events.
Obviously from a student driver point of view, it's very exciting to go very fast, but let's be honest, we're all students building these cars. I wouldn't trust them at a very high speed at all.
Yeah, well, one of the drivers for ECU would probably be a driver that was missing out. He was out last night working on the car till 3 in the morning, so it would have been very tired out there, and you want to keep the times down.
And that is UTS Electric in for their driver change. I'm sure they'll be very excited about this. Now, Auckland noticed the 2014 competition track. It was a bit more open. We thought it was tending towards the European competition, but we're pleasantly surprised when we came to 2015 and found it a bit tighter than last year.
Well, I think ECU was the opposite. I think we preferred the open track and certainly expecting it this time around. That last lap from Sydney was a 2:03.3. So let's hope they can get back out and complete that endurance.
They are producing some very consistent laps here, perhaps a little off the pace of the higher runners, but it is a first-year electric vehicle.
Yeah, I think in your first year, the game plan is not really what Griffith did by coming out and blasting those lap times. Usually as a first-year team, you come in to finish everything, compete in everything, and come back stronger the next year. I don't think anyone gave Griffith that script, and they came here chasing placings.
Well, you could hear it in the voices of the commentators and the people around us. We were all very shocked with the Griffith times.
So of course, one of the things that happened when the Australian competition started is everyone was expecting it was going to take a long time before Australian teams were competitive, Australasian teams were competitive, and within 2 years, an Australian team had, I think 3 years, I think an Australian team had won the US competition, which at that stage was considered the best in the world. That was, of course, Wollongong, a very early success, and their first car was a big shock to everyone involved, and it showed the level of competition that the Australian teams were going to produce. Following that, UWA has won international competitions. They've won the US and one in Australia. We've had RMIT win in the UK. And we've had Queensland do very well. I think at one stage they won the combined score for the dynamics in the German competition early on. And Monash at one stage have been ranked #1 in the world. They are yet to win an international competition. They do quite well in Germany and the UK, but still to take out an international competition. But 6-time Australian competition champions, and probably about to go 7 times. So we've had some very good success. And when you consider that the Australian competition was started at around the same time as Formula Student UK, and I think the UK teams, I'm not sure if I know of a UK team that's won their own competition.
We're seeing some comments on the live stream, Kevin, telling us that there's too much banter to handle between us. I think it's died down a little since both our cars didn't finish the first endurance.
Yeah, I think this is the reality of the commentary when there's lots of cars going around and doing the times, especially the fast ones. You get a lot of times coming through. But once you pass that, you really just get a lot of crap.
We are, of course, wrapping up this session. It looks like UTS is probably going to be the last car out on track today, completing the second half of their endurance.
It looks like they're letting teams, I know, is Marshall's going back out. So any teams with cars stranded out on the track probably need to get themselves ready to go out. This session could end any time soon.
I can see team members from Auckland walking out into the pits ready to recover the car. So I'd say the session is coming to an end.
Yeah, it looks, hopefully UTS can get, UTS are heading back out, but
that is very exciting for UTS.
Isaac is here looking longingly at the Auckland car stranded out there, but it does look like they're going to let teams out and try to collect those cars, or at least get ready.
Our driver running to the car as quick as he can. He wants it back. But I imagine they'll be waved across the track by the marshals when it's deemed safe, and we'll slowly be able to recover all the vehicles.
Well, it's quite unfortunate from what I hear is only minor damage from what the best of the driver can understand, minor damage from a cone hit, and it just it's really unfortunate. So hopefully that driver's not feeling too upset about it.
Well, as with a lot of teams, we try to make it as light as possible and on the limit, and that does mean that sometimes a little bit of damage does happen from a relatively minor incident. There are a lot of cones on track. A lot of teams are bound to hit at least one.
What's quite exciting there is, I think, apart from Edith, Cowan University, we haven't seen any black flags. Well, I think, did they let, no, I think Taylor's
may have gone a mechanical black flag, but other than that, it's a reasonably clean session for the cars.
Yeah.
So to give you a rundown of we don't have the totals for the endurance times, but we can give you the order of outright pace. Monash coming in first with a 141.8 as their quickest lap, followed by Canterbury on a 144.5. Griffith, the shock of the day, on a 146.6, followed by South Australia on a 147.0. They unfortunately didn't get to finish their endurance. Continuing the order down, though, we've got Wollongong, Queensland, Curtin, Melbourne, Adfa, New South Wales, RMIT Electric there, Missouri, Auckland, Adelaide, Edith, Cowan, Waikato, Newcastle, Tasmania, Sydney, James Cook, another Sydney, Taylor's in Queensland. So obviously that doesn't tell you much because that's only the quickest outright lap. I'm happy to say the Auckland team appear to have recovered the car. It's still rolling on all four wheels.
Well, that's a good sign.
Perhaps different than a couple of days ago, but looking good.
Well, the Auckland car, it's a very well designed and built car. Very rare to see problems go wrong there. There was quite a while ago when the team was running custom engines that they didn't have a great finishing record, but you've refocused your efforts and really double down on their single-cylinder concept with small, lightweight cars, and I think it seems to be paying off for you, despite just an incident today.
Well, yeah, we moved back to the standard single Yamaha WR450 in 2013, and unfortunately that year we saw a bottom end failure in the endurance, which was pretty crap. But we came back from that in 2014. We managed to finish both endurances and place a third on the podium, and we're hoping for similar or better this year, but we're going to have to see.
UTS still going out around there, the only car on track, just hitting a cone and
they
really
have taken the cone under the suspension. Hopefully a little bit of weaving left and right. Yes, there we are. Let's release that. He clearly heard me.
I think the only time I'm aware of a driver noticing people on the side of the track is in 2003, a Monash car was on fire. Normally we're used to seeing them on fire with their pace, but they were literally on fire. And the driver saw this sea of yellow shirts from UWA waving at him to get out, and I don't know whether he thought they were being very welcoming, but he pulled the car off and hopped out.
I think there may be a video of that one floating around on YouTube.
I probably shouldn't tell too much about that event. The UWA, I was driving in the UWA car, and we had flames spurting out of the exhaust. We had a bit of fuel going through there.
That was on purpose, though, right?
Off.
Definitely on purpose.
But one of the things that was happening is I was driving the event with no brakes. Now, of course, I probably should have told Rob Chadwick that the brakes had failed and we weren't really supposed to go back out. But instead, I said to the new driver as quietly as I could, watch out. There's no brakes and your feet are going to be pretty slippery. I'd managed to finish the endurance, but not with a very good time.
All you have to do is lift, right?
Well, it was a lot of sideways into corners. It was. I'll tell you what, it wasn't very quick, but it was a lot of fun.
I'm so burnt. I'm not used to this. Nah, man. Can't see anything from there.
For those of you that are wondering, the commentators, we tend to sit up on the hill. This is by far the best view in the competition. You can see almost see all of the track from up here. There's only a little bit of a corner on the very far end that you can't see. A bit when they're coming up the hills is a bit difficult, and the return road that they've put in. But otherwise, you get a great view from up here. And I think it's one of the big advantages of being here over, say, Werribee, is you've got a really good view of the action.
I'm happy to say that the University of Queensland electric vehicle has also been recovered and returned to the pits. From what I can see, that leaves the University of Adelaide and the other Sydney car stranded on track.
Well, it's a real shame for Adelaide because they are a very, very long way away. That's about I think we were having nightmares of turning up to autocross and having the car break down on the other side of the track.
We did stop down there last year, and yes, it was a bit of a mission to get it back. Funny story there, the driver accidentally hitting the kill switch with his wrist as he turned a corner. The UTS car coming around again. I'll grab their lap time for you, a 2:03.6.
So how many, I've lost my timing here, how many laps have we got left for UTS?
Well, by my math, they have 4 laps left to complete.
Well, that's very good math indeed. New Zealand known for its high math achievement.
It could be really, really wrong.
So do you use a lot of math on your car?
I don't. I send emails. I mean, the bit I've been most involved with in our car is pedal box and brakes. But yeah, for the last couple of years, I've been stuck in management. They try to keep me away from the car. Well, I'm not sure why.
That's quite shocking because our team leader, Nathan Van Voot, as our Dutch connection, he designed the pedal box as well. So it looks like if you're a team manager, you're good for emails and pedal boxes.
Our pedal box is better than your pedal box.
Well, I think you'll probably have to take that up with Nathan.
He's quite a competitive fellow. I'm a bit afraid of him.
He's very competitive. He's already had some lively conversations with Scott Wordley from Monash this weekend. He's really competitive, wants to end up in racing and pushes very hard. It looks like the train going past here, that it has wearing University of Queensland's colours. They have stickered it up for this weekend. It's good to see that much purple on a train.
Unfortunately, a little quicker than they have been today, not finishing the 2 endurances that their vehicles entered. UTS is Well, they're a little slow over in the back straight. They might just be nursing it, trying to get it back around the last couple of laps.
Well, we'll have to check with the University of Queensland guys, that train, that big purple train that West went past. I was impressed that they'd produced both an electric car and a petrol car, but if I find out that they've produced a train as well, well, I think that's a new record.
Might have to wonder about their resource allocation a little bit, but we don't even have a workshop to build a train. I wonder how they did that.
Well, I bet you'd have a high average speed for its course. It's a bit difficult to go off the racing line, though.
Acceleration time might be fairly awful, so it's get bad. Yes, UTS definitely going slower on this last lap, coming down the straight. It'll be really good to see them come home with it, but their last lap was a 2:21.3.
Yeah, that's well off the pace, well off their initial pace as well.
The University of Sydney car being recovered.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what that was, because it's rare to see a lot of smoke coming out of that out of a front wheel.
Yeah, especially out of the front. Maybe there's a secret four-wheel drive system that we missed.
Well, frankly, I think they'd be probably happy they saw the front smoke coming out of the front rather than the rear. It's much harder to fix if it's coming out of the rear.
The driver really didn't care. I was amazed. Could have been brake fluid onto a hot rotor or things like that too.
Yeah, I think that's the most likely case.
For regen, but I'm pretty sure they're not running regen on the cars. So. Yeah, I think they were. I haven't seen it on other cars though, so. I thought it was a rules thing, but yeah. I think it is a rules thing. A couple of the EV lighting things we've seen in the last couple of days have been dubious. I thought there would need to be more lights than that, particularly the safety ones meant they're visible from everywhere, like on track, like that one, but green and red when the car's on and off. I just haven't seen one. You're also not allowed to run on the wet here for the electric cars, because they don't spray test it there for waterproofing.
Well, one of the interesting things that Isaac has just reminded us of, we're having a bit of a chat about the electric cars up here, and if it was to rain today, the electric cars aren't able to run in Australia, in the UK and the competitions. They do a spray test on the electric cars to make sure that they are waterproof. Obviously, electrons and water don't mix too well, but here we don't. As a new competition running these electric cars, we don't necessarily have the same facilities to be able to do all of the tests and run the competition the same as Europe. So if it rains, unfortunately, the electric cars aren't able to run in Australia.
Now, I would like to think that all the electric cars are still meeting the waterproofness requirements, but yeah, because they haven't been tested, it's probably best not to put them out there.
No, unless I'm mistaken, I think UTS have stopped at the other end of the track. So, what at this stage, if UTS doesn't go through, this will be the end of this session. We will be back in the afternoon for what time are we back in the afternoon?
Well, the scheduled start should be 1:15 for the start of Endurance Heat 2, with the end of the first one meant to be 12:30. So we're not far off time. I think you can expect to see us back at 1:15 to 1:30.
And in the afternoon, it will be the petrol cars out. We have the electric cars starting, but in order to give them as much as much recharging time as possible, I believe that the electric cars are running at the end rather than at the beginning. So the first car out in the afternoon session should be Monash. So we'll see some fast cars again, and I'm really interested to see whether University of Cantebury can come up and take the endurance. They were looking very competitive against Monash, a little bit slower. I'm also interested to see with the drivers from Wollongong, where I think we saw probably their slower pairing go out, but the two guys that were driving autocross yesterday were incredibly quick. So it'd be great to watch them, and they'll be the second car out on track.
Yeah, I think with teams like Auckland and ECU not being able to run in the first one, the second endurance could end up being quite close. It could come all down to efficiency and just the odd lap that brings your whole average down.
And I think those teams that have banked runs in the first lot, especially Monash, will be pushing very hard. So if they can go out and put in some incredible lap times, they'll be looking for that big win.
So with that, it looks like the session has ended. There are vehicles on the track and the marshals are all walking back. For those of you watching on the live stream, thank you. It's always good to know that we have people watching the racing.
And thank you for your patience with some of the banter that's
More power, better fuel economy, a cleaner, more efficient engine. They're just a few of the advantages of having your car tuned on a Dynotech dyno. To find your nearest Dynotech workshop, go to dyno.com.au. Dynotech by Dyno Dynamics.
Right now, there's a lot to get excited about at your local Holden dealer. Like this, and this, and this. But what's even more exciting is that there's going to be another 24 new world-class cars coming to local Holden dealerships right across Australia. Now that's a future I want to see.
Don't tiptoe through life. Don't live quietly, politely, invisibly. Travel against the grain. Take on today and let tomorrow know you're coming. The new VF2, the most powerful Commodore ever, is here. Power ahead.
I'm Grant Crowe and I'm the Motorsport Director of the President WRX Car Club of Victoria. This year we're running nine rounds of the sprints, practice all around Victoria, so Winton, Calder, Phillip Island, Sandown, and we've got a round in at Wakefield Park as well. I think the club's just a bunch of like-minded enthusiasts that they've got their little toy cars and they either want to compete in the motorsport side of things or they want to partake in the social aspects of the club. Whether you're involved in motorsport, you want to get out onto a track just to enjoy the day and make use of the car you've got, or whether or not you just want to polish it to the nth degree and win yourself a show and shine. And there's different parts there, so get out there, get involved. The clubs are there, and it's a good thing.
So the idea of a Come and Try Day is basically for people who've never been on track or involved in any form of motorsport, just to come and have a go on the track. Getting involved is fairly easy. There's a list of Come and Try events on the Canberra website, and you basically just have a look, enter an event, and turn up and have some fun.
It's been really good. It's the first time we've ever been here. Century Auto Body and the I'll see you at Phil Park.
Hi, I'm Daniel Ricciardo. Did you know Australian motorsport has around 150,000 participants? Did you know there are nearly 1,400 clubs around Australia?
And more than 76,000 people belong to those clubs.
Did you know that there are more than 6,000 events held in Australia each year?
More than 55,000 are involved in competitive motorsport.
17,000 are volunteers. Did you know that?
And did you know that 16,000 people are employed in Australian motorsport?
And did you know this?
Motorsport contributes $2.7 billion to the Australian economy.
$2.7 billion.
$2.7 billion.
That's a bit of money.
That's a huge chunk of money.
That's a huge contribution to the Australian economy.
That is quite a contribution, and Australian motorsport should be proud.
And that proves there is a big industry behind Australian motorsport.
That puts Australia among the leading players on the world stage.
That makes motorsport a big deal. Australian motorsport.
Now that's something to get revved up about.
It's given us great opportunities to gain connections and through the world of motorsport and engineering. We've learned all about project management, organisation, engineering.
So this will help our careers in the future because it gives us a well-rounded understanding of what F1 is about. So I'm pretty sure all of us want to go into careers in F1, if not motorsport. So it'd be a little bit of understanding of engineering, even if you don't design the car. That will help when you need to potentially work in motorsport, because then you can understand what you're writing about.
Well, we were all interested in motorsport in the beginning, and when we saw this program, we had our mentors competing at the 2012 World Finals. Then we all became interested and decided to join Formula One schools.